Policy is a proposed action, blueprint, approach, scheme, plan, strategy adopted by an organization or an individual which could turn into a law. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Woodward Villalino, and welcome to Pangasinan State University Open University Systems EDM333 webinar series topic, the policy process, a corroborative report. This is an academic symposium activity sponsored by the Doctor of Education, major in Educational Management. Today is May 7, 2022. Time check, it's around 5 o'clock already in Thailand and 6 o'clock in the Philippines. So now, it is always right to invoke God's name in everything we do. So may I request everyone to prepare their hearts as we're going to have the prayer by Father Ferdinand C. Aparillo, MSP, to be followed by the singing of the Philippine National Anthem by the Gardener Baker/singer of Davao City, Miss Charisse Carino Macasaet, and to be followed by the Pangasinan State University hymn.
Let us now invoke the presence of the Holy Spirit. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Come, Holy Spirit, fill the hearts of your faithful, and kindle in them the fire of your love. Send forth your Spirit, and they shall be created, and you shall renew the face of the earth. O God, who by the light of the Holy Spirit did instruct the hearts of the faithful, grant that by the same Holy Spirit we may be truly wise and ever enjoy his consolations through Christ our Lord. Amen. Let us pray. Almighty and ever-living God, we give you thanks for the many varied gifts you bestow on us, especially the gift of knowledge and wisdom. Bless the resource speakers, the graduate students, and all the participants of this webinar series program. Grant that through their vision, they may be of great service to teaching your people and bring honor and glory to your name. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. And may Almighty God bless you all, the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Go in the peace and love of Christ. Thanks be to God.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Philippine National Anthem.
Magiliw pero sa silanganan, alab ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lupang, wala man. Let's proceed now. Lupang hinirang, duyan ka ng magiting, sa manlulupig, di ka pasisiil, sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mong bughaw, may dilag ang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang kislap ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na nagniningning. Ang bituin at araw niya kailan pa may di magdidilim. Lupa ng araw ng walhatit pagsinta mo'y langit sa piling mo. Aming ligaya na pag may mga api ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Thank you, Miss Charisse. And now the Pangasinan State University hymn.
considered as divine because the rulers are guided.
Okay, so as this is a corroborative report, the information that we are about to witness tonight adds proof to an account or statement that would surely benefit us all. So without further ado, help me welcome the former college instructor or executives and also executive secretary and IGP coordinator at PSU San Carlos and worked as MEP teacher at Camcanicon School and college English teacher at Concan Vocational College. Please help me welcome our co-EDD student, Miss Amy Rose Soriano. Let's give us our virtual round of applause.
Thank you very much, Sir Woodward. To our Professor Dr. Philip Quiroga, the Executive Director of Pangasinan State Open University, honorable guests, respected future doctors, teachers, and all my dear friends. It gives me a warm welcome for everyone present in the interest of this third webinar series in the topic, the policy process. Our class organizes a webinar with the head of our Professor Dr. Philip Quiroga consistently for the educators to gain information and to be effectively associated with the school exercises. Last week, the second webinar series was based on the education policy framework, which has helped us learn organized plans, set of standards, or learning outcomes that define the content to be learned in terms of clear, definable standards of what the student should know and be able to do. In it great help us as a future doctor of education achieving a high standards which will be achieved. Through this webinar, we will be able to know more about the policy process that improves our idea as a future doctor and educators. As one member of the committee, we ensure that the webinar will be profitable and the next few hours we will be enjoyable and fruitful for every one of us. Once again, welcome to our webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ames. Indeed fruitful after this webinar. So now we will proceed to the inspirational message. So we heard this several times already, but I won't be tired of saying it all over and over again. One of the multi-awarded professors of PSU, both in administrative and research, which includes one of the latest. He was awarded as international certificate as peer reviewer by the editorial board of the iJoint ETCOR or EDCOR, and now with his 108th citation, wherein the latest was cited by Russian authors, and still we are looking forward for the next. So my confidant, my thesis advisor, our executive director, please help me welcome to inspire us all, Dr. Philip G. Quiroga. Doc?
Okay. Am I audible, Wood?
Yes, Doc, you are.
All right. So thank you for the kind introduction, Sir Woodward. A pleasant evening to all. So let me recognize exceptional personalities present in this third webinar series entitled The Policy Process with the theme Future School Managers, Educational Policy and Analysis in the New Normal of Education. So starting with the host group that will be, they will also be the resource speakers, no? Of course, with their leader, Ma'am Charlotte Amali Yuson, and other members, Ma'am Lolita Umina, Ma'am Ederlyn Aracena, and Sir Ronnie Morgan. So I congratulate you on a job well done at this point in time. Of course, the rest of the students of EDM333 are also acknowledged. I know your contributions are also instrumental in the success of this webinar. Special thanks to Reverend Father Ferdinand Aporillo and Ms. Charis Carino for leading the prayer and singing the national anthem. And of course, also special thanks to Ma'am Aini for giving the welcome address. May I also welcome again our participants for this webinar for your support and eagerness to learn despite their busy schedule. I heard that some international professors are also around, no? So welcome to this webinar. We all know that the COVID-19 pandemic made phenomenal changes worldwide, and the education sector is not an exemption. Other than globalization and internationalization, the paradigm shift in the educational landscape is drastically felt because of the latter. Because of this premise, countries around the world made drastic changes to cope with the new standards to sustain the attainment of quality and relevant education through educational policy and analysis. As prime movers of educational management this evening, let us prepare ourselves to learn new and exciting theories and frameworks that we can apply and utilize in our respective units. I challenge each of you present in this webinar to make a difference in the education sector. May it be big or small, it doesn't matter. What matters is what you have contributed. James Clear once said in the book Atomic Habits, all big things come from all small beginnings. The seed of every habit is a single, tiny decision. But as that decision is repeated, a habit sprouts and grows stronger. Roots entrench themselves and branches grow. The task of breaking a bad habit is like uprooting a mighty oak within us. And the task of building a good habit is like cultivating a delicate flower one day at a time. So your participation in this webinar is tantamount to sowing a seed that thrives into a robust tree and will serve its purpose in humanity in its lifetime. So let us learn and enjoy ourselves at the same time. So again, congratulations Group 3. Masanto Selabi at Sikain Amin. That is a greetings from Pangasinan. A blessed evening to everyone.
Thank you very much, Doc Philip. Your ingenuity are fired up our enthusiasm today. So, as Doc Philip said, what we could contribute matters most. So let's plant a seed, learn, enjoy, and let us all flourish. So now, ladies and gentlemen, next off is the webinar objectives. So may I call on the former office staff at Maths College of Technology, former SBG division staff at Ateneo de Davao University, and now working as one of the foreign teachers at Bangkok Metropolitan Administration. Help me welcome Mr. Ronald Niar.
Good evening, dear educators and our policymaker in the near future. In every learning goals, it has learning objectives to guide us, enlighten us to achieve our purpose. In tonight's webinar, the participants are expected to, first, broaden the understanding about the concept and meaning of policy in general and education policy in particular, and also more to familiarize with the development of education policy and its process from the systematization of its main constructs. Second, offer a relevant and meaningful experience in school, which will be beneficial to students and also have economical and development significance. And third, understanding the educational policy process and its consequences. And the fourth, applying theory to practice in educational policy process. And the last objectives, to develop skills to examine the relationship of society and education through a variety of theoretical perspectives and empirical studies in education policy process.
Okay, so there we have it, the seminar objectives. Thank you very much, Sir Ronald. And now we are directed already on the end goal of this webinar. Hence, everyone is excited to hear of the competent correspondence tonight. So, but before that, let's be guided by the house rules. These are the rules in our seminar. Number 1, situate yourself in a quiet place so that there will be no disruption. Number 2, turn off your microphone during the webinar unless you are asked to respond. Number 3, listen attentively to give respect to the speaker. Number 4, inquiries and clarifications will be entertained in the question and answer part unless the speaker acknowledges you so. Number 5, please use the chat box for your concerns. Wait until you're recognized and the facilitator will attend to you soon. Number 6, keep an open mind as you listen to the speaker. And lastly, respect co-attendees and co-participants. So those are our house rules. So let's just enjoy this webinar, ladies and gentlemen. So I know soon after this, we'll be able to interact with our correspondents. So ladies and gentlemen, our set of correspondents to discuss tonight's topic, the policy process, a collaborative. First, we have to discuss policy implementation. Then, as we discuss agenda setting, we have one and we have the second one, discuss policy formulation. Next, to discuss policy implementation, Ms. Charlotte Emily A. Yuson, and policy evaluation and policy process by Ms. Lolita L. Uminga. So we will not take this longer. We will going to start the first correspondent. So let's discuss the first topic. So now allow me to introduce our first correspondent. Ronnie Lambosa has earned a bachelor's degree in music, arts, PE, and health at Pampanga State Agricultural University. He has also earned his master's degree in special education, major in mild and moderate at St. Dominic Savio College, and master's of arts in special education, major in visual impairment at the Philippine Normal University. He is currently taking his doctoral degree at Pangasinan State University Open University Systems. He is a licensed professional teacher in both Philippines and the United States. He also has license in crisis intervention program for special education is issued by California and Arizona Department of Education. Mr. Lambosa is currently a special education specialist at Maricopa Unified School District and a resource math teacher handling Algebra 2 math for senior high school at the said school. Mr. Lambosa loves his work as special education specialist, where his goal is to identify the individual needs of each child and create a healthy, inspiring, and supportive learning environment and develop individualized teaching methods that are suitable for each student, as well as collaborating with other staff members and school leadership to build a better learning environment for students. In addition, Mr. Lambosa was awarded as one of the best teachers in the year 2021 and 2022 at Maricopa High School. Ladies and gentlemen, to speak about agenda setting and my co-host in the next parts of this program, please help me welcome Mr. Roland Lombroso Morgan, MA SPAD. Let's give them a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Sir Ronnie.
Thank you so much, Sir Woodward, and good evening, everyone. So welcome to Pangasinan State University, Open University, to our third webinar series with a theme, Education Policy Process, Does It Matter? So we all know that the Philippines education has evolved over the 100 years in colonial occupations. So first by Spain and by the United States through the people's power that brought democracy to the sprawling archipelago. Education sector developed has mirrored the changes in the country's administrations. Today, the focus is on expanding access and ensuring more Filipinos receive the decent educations, improving educational competitiveness. The Philippines has a vibrant and diverse educational system, with the government assisted by the private sector, providing a wide range of educations from early years after the college and university across the archipelago. The Department of Education oversees and provisions of the basic educations. So tonight, we'll be able to learn on how the education policy process works and uplift the educational system in the Philippines. We have a couple of correspondents that will be able to discuss us the education policy process in terms of policy formulations, policy implementations, and policy analysis. So without further ado, I would like to introduce to you our first correspondent who will help us to ameliorate our ideas in terms of educational system, in terms of process formulations. Our first correspondent for tonight's webinar so she earned her bachelor's secondary education and major in mathematics from Laguna State Polytechnic University in Los Baños campus. Master of Arts major in early childhood education from Ifugao State University and earned 24 units in Master of Arts in teaching major in special education from University of Visayas, Cebu City. She's also a licensed teacher in Philippines and Thailand. Since she's moving to Bangkok, Thailand in 2008, Ms. Ederlin has worked in supporting students with special education needs in St. Andrews International School for 5 years and currently in her 9th year as a special education teacher at Ascot International School. One of her favorite aspects of her role is as a SAN teacher is being involved in collaborating with the teachers and administrators to further learning to better instruct. So good evening, Ms. Ederlin.
Good morning. Good evening, Sir Ron. Okay, let me share my screen first.
So today we're going, you are one of our correspondents and you're going to share about policy formulations, right? So what is all about in terms of policy formulations? How it is very important to us in terms of educational system policy.
Okay, so today I will discuss the policy formulation and decision-making process. And for the information of everyone, education policy refers to the actions taken by the government, its decisions that are intended to solve problems and improve the quality of education of our learners. So in the Philippines, there are 3 agencies that supervise the Philippine educational system. They are the Department of Education, the Commission of Higher Education, and the Technical Education and Skills Development Authority. So this is the stakeholders list from bottom to the top. So each of the stakeholders plays a vital role in the formulation of educational policy. Stakeholders are the individuals that directly involved or affected by the activity. So students are the key stakeholders when we formulate policies in curriculum and instructions. So parents can also be a stakeholder as well as the textbook publishers. So this is the diagram of the Department of Education's roles and responsibility in the creation of educational policies. So for example, the mother tongue-based multilingual education policy, the policy was formulated at the central office, and the roles and responsibilities of each office flows downward. So the school are responsible in the classroom implementation. So before a policy can be created, a problem must exist that is called to the attention of the government. So here is the organizational chart of the 3 educational agencies in the Philippines from higher hierarchy to the lower level. So the chain of command is centralized and it has different subcommittees or departments within the organizational, where in each of them have a specific roles and responsibilities. So in our school, this is our chain of command. Our headmaster supervises the whole operations of the school. So how do we make a policy in different key stages? So the people who are involved within the specific department will sit together, review, and amend when needed the existing policy. So for example, like in my department, inclusion department, the CN teacher, which is my position, is responsible in contacting the parents for IEP parents meeting before. But recently, we involved the front office team for contacting the parents for appointments of meetings. And another one that we had changed is instead of through emails or referrals of the possible SEN students, we ask the teachers to encode the information to the ISAM. So it is the whole school management storing system. So then the head of inclusion will ask me to be in charge, to validate the observed information through class observations and assess the student. So written report will be sent to the head of inclusion and we'll discuss it within the team for the next step. So our head of inclusion has the approval of the senior leadership team. So this one on the top, okay? So, and then upon approval of the changes on the policy, we can disseminate the informations to the teachers in the staff meeting. Okay, so the policy reviews objective is to provide coherence in the Department of Education's policy. So Department of Education or DepEd, essential objectives are to broaden the access to quality education. So we are aiming to improve the national or international achievement test. As we all know, we rank second to the lowest in the recent teens assessment. So for us to produce a quality graduates of basic education and promoted performance excellence across all levels, our government had established, okay, so we are aiming to produce ideal graduates. So our government has established some policy responses such as RA 10533, RA 1010157, RA 10931, and RA 113110. Okay, so this is the policies area. So, these are the curriculum, curriculum and instruction, governance, operation and admin, learning environment, human resource management, and development. So this area, our next correspondent, Ms. Yuson, will elaborate more on these details. Okay, so she will give more details on these areas and the finance. Okay, policy formulation is the process of determining the potential solutions and evaluate solutions to select the most appropriate. So there are several steps in educational policy formulation. So first is we have to select the desired objectives. So bear in mind that the planning of the strategies for us to solve the issues must be aligned to the school or the DepEd mission and vision. So here are the DepEd missions and visions. Okay, so these are the visions of the Department of Education, which is for us Filipinos to be globally competitive. Then the second one, we have to identify the target of the objective. Then third one, we have to determine on how we can reach the objective, thinking of the best way and the just way to reach our goal. Then the fourth one, design the specific program of measure in respect of that goal. At this stage, we have to decide the appropriate strategies and the approval of the authorized stakeholder will take place. Then finally, implement the measures and assess its impact. Upon the implementation, the responsible stakeholder have to conduct a policy analysis to tell if it is effective or not. So this is the summary diagram on how DepEd, CHED, and TESDA formulate the educational policy and how it is being discussed on the Congress and Senate of the Philippines. So the school, district, or division office will identify the problem. The Education Research Committee will conduct some investigation and create a proposal or policy to solve the problem. So and then phase 2, the Congress, the executive branch, the courts, and interest groups may be involved. Contradictory proposals are often made. So after officials narrow the range of possible policy choices by excluding infeasible options, the different interested parties attempt to have their favored policy solution rank high among the remaining options. So this step often involves a period of intense debate among the senators or congressmen. Then on phase 3, which is so this step, the government leaders decide on a particular course of action. Ideally, it is the course that will best address the problem for the most member of the public. Then upon approval of the bill or the law, the implementation, evaluations, and the proposal for amendment will follow. Okay, so this is called the SBM. Okay, so the central office has given the individual school principals a power to make decisions and to enable them to better respond to their specific education needs through the school-based management. So the school principal have an authority to come out with the different programs and use and to liquidate the funds coming from the DepEd for whatever program that they think needs urgent solution to provide learners the best education. So, however, the school-based management has its limitation. The school principals cannot choose the grant on the public program or projects listed on the screen. It can only be used for activities that would enhance the teaching and learning experience of our learners. For example, teacher-made learning material for differentiations and innovations instruction, for classroom activities, supplies, and continuous improvement projects. So if you want to know more about the SBM, you can check it in the DepEd website. Okay, so the Philippine government is aware of the current issues that we are facing right now. So let us discuss the Philippine government's policy response and issues in education. Okay, so the first one is the RA 10533, which is known as Enhanced Basic Education Act of 2013. So for the information of everyone, so in Philippine education history, K-12 reform was the third major educational reform policy. So policymakers believe that we must strengthen our curriculum by increasing the number of years for basic education from 10 years to 12 years. So the very goal of the K-12 program is to produce 21st century graduates equipped with the core values and lifelong competencies they need to contribute to society's development and nation building. So the K-12 program was created by law, and only law will abolish or repeal it. It cannot be abolished or repelled by the president or anybody for that matter. Remember that the duty of the president is to mandate or to enforce the law. Only the Congress of the Philippines, consisting of the Senate and the House of Representatives, has the power to abolish or repeal a law such as the Enhanced Basic Education Act of 2013. So the
Okay,
K to
Miss
12 policy
Everly.
analysis will be discussed further in the fifth webinar series. Okay.
So, Mr. Lula, I'm really intrigued regarding the K to 12. So I have my question regarding why they implement K to 12 in the Philippines.
Because they believe that we Filipino learners must be equipped with lifelong competencies. Okay, so because we are left behind among with our neighboring countries, and if you notice, if you will go to Canada, for example, the nurses, the Filipino nurses have to study again in Canada because it's not, sometimes it's not recognized. Okay, so that is the reason we have to evolve. We have to change our curriculum. We have to make a massive reform in our education. Okay, so this is an example of the department order of DepEd, and you can see on the screen the 13 elements that compose the department order. These are the 13. You can check on the arrows. Okay. Okay, and then while you can see now on your screen the basic contents of the policy guidelines to be enclosed to the department order. Okay, so the new policy. So as part of the RA 10533, which is the Enhanced Basic Education Act of 2013, DepEd and CHED had issued some guidelines on the establishment of policy development process on their respective areas. The DepEd issues Department Order number 13 series of 2015. Okay, so the Department of Education is using an evidence-based policy-making approach. This is an approach that helps people make well-informed decisions about policies, programs, and projects by putting the best available evidence from research at the heart of the policy development and implementation. Okay, so here are the features of the new policy of the Department of Education. So first, it provides mechanisms and procedures for the formulation, adoption, and review of policies. Then the second one, it serves as a guide for Department of Education and its stakeholder, and it's in developing and issuing policies. Then the third one, it defines system for tracking of compliance to policy. It is also established the system for periodic review of policy implementation, adheres to the common format and styles, and lastly, support an interactive and DepEd website for easy search and download. So if you want to study more on the DepEd order or the format of the department orders, you can also check it in the DepEd website. So this is the website of the Department of Education. Okay, so the next response is the RA 10931. So it is signed on 3rd of August 2017. So it is called the Universal Access to Quality Tertiary Education. Okay, it is a Philippine law that institutionalized tertiary education, subsidies, free student loans program, free tuition fees, and exemption from other fees in state universities and colleges in the Philippines. So it aims to increase the access of all tertiary students adhere to the government's aim to provide free higher education for all Filipinos.
So, Ms. Adorlin, in terms of like a new policy, a free tuition fee, like what you've said, so it is include the private sector, or just only the state
Yes,
universities were under the government?
okay. So the Universal Access to Quality Tertiary Education Act, it is merely on state universities and college and local universities and colleges in the Philippines.
Oh, so
Okay,
it
so
means
it's
it's not
not
under.
applicable on the
Okay, so
state
it means.
universities and college, okay, and local universities.
Oh, so does it mean it does
But
not include the universities that the private sector does not include? It's not under the umbrella of the government.
yes,
Yeah.
so what I know, the government is giving other subsidy program for the private
Oh, okay.
university. So the next, the CHED memorandum order. Okay, number one, series of 2005 had issues and a revised policy and guidelines on voluntary accreditation in aid of quality excellence in higher education. So these policies emphasize that the higher education institution must maintain their standards of quality over and above the minimum requirements by the state through accreditation. Okay, so Ms. Lolita Omega, our port correspondent, will discuss further the RA 10931 and the accreditation process of higher education institution.
Mhm.
So if you notice, the Commission of Higher Education, or the CHED, is more focused on the outcome-based education, or OBE.
Okay, so what is that outcome-based education's new policy of the CHED? So why they have this outcomes?
Okay, so well, outcome-based education is an approach that focuses and organizes the individual and the educational system around what is essential for all learners to know, value, and be able to do the achievement desired level of competency. So it is open to incorporating discipline-based learning areas that currently structured in higher educational institution curricula. As I mentioned a while ago, that every program or policy to be formulated must be based on their missions and visions of the of CHED or DepEd or TESDA. So then the implementation of policy standard to enhance quality assurance in Philippine higher education through an outcome-based and typology-based QA. So here are the updates on the policy, standards, and guidelines for baccalaureate programs in higher education. So a combinations of minimum required general education subjects or subjects, professional subjects, or major subjects, including electives. So there is also a mandatory work or experiential learning before graduation from higher education institute. So there is also changes in the total number of credits required for undergraduate in the undergraduate program. So, and finally, majority of the baccalaureate programs will still be 4 years in duration. As engineering, accountancy, physical therapy, occupational therapy were reduced from 5 years to 4 years. Then the Doctor of Medicine, Doctor of Veterinary Medicine were retained as 6 years program. So you can see now on your screen the comparison of the existing and revised program of teacher education degree, where there are more available choices to choose from. So revision of teacher education curricula is based for global comparativity. So the difference between is The existing and the revised curriculum, between the existing and the revised curricula is the addition of elective courses of 6 units in the revised curricula. Overall, the number of units had been decreased in the revised curriculum. So another policy response that the government put in place is the RA 10157, which is known the 4Ps. Okay.
Okay,
So to
so
reduce, yes.
I'm intrigued with this four piece because this like I always heard this four piece like pantawid tahanan. So because I have a lot of friends who receiver this four piece. So how does four piece work and how it is related to the policy formulation?
Yeah. So 4Ps aim to reduce the poverty rate. Okay. So it is a poverty reduction strategy that provides grant to extremely poor households to improve their health, nutrition, and education. Particularly of children aged 0 to 14 years old. So 4Ps has a dual objective for social assistance and social development. So as you can see on your screen, the amount of cash grant that each household will receive per month or per annum. So a family can receive 6,000 per year or 500 per month, and education 3,000 for education or 300 per month for each child dependent.
Okay, so I was wondering, what if I have like 5 or 6 like children, so all of them they can receive this four piece, or just there's a minimum number of children in the family that would be able to receive this four piece, you know?
So what I know, there it should be maximum 3 children, okay, per household. So for example, you have 3 children, so you can receive the 500 per month, then 300 per each child, so you will receive 1,400 per month, or a total of 15,000 annually,
Oh,
as
so
long
just
as they
only
comply
3.
with the conditions.
So just only 3, just only the maximum of
Yeah,
3.
maximum of 3. So the 4Ps member must comply with the following conditions. So for them to avail the grant, so it should be the pregnant woman must get pre or postnatal care and be attended by a skilled trained professionals during a childbirth. Parents must attend responsible family development sessions. Children should receive regular preventive health checkups and vaccines. Children must attend daycare or preschool or elementary schooling or until high school at least 85% of the time. So children should also avail their warming pills every 5 months.
Okay, there's about another follow-up question, Ms. Edrolin. So there's any reason like a member of Corpus would be removed in the program? So for
Yes,
example, you're a member and then you just like, okay, so the government would say, oh, you are out of the program. So there's any reason of that?
Yes, definitely. It didn't comply on the compliance that they need to the condition that I mentioned a while ago. They will be suspended or dropping from the program.
Oh.
So they have to do their part as a parent, okay, to send their children in the school and to access the healthcare system of the government.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so this is the summary of the process of the for the 4Ps program. So the next policy response is the RA 11 P110, or which is called the Kindergarten Act.
So Kindergarten Act. So what is all about on this? So this is important. So because like a kids, there's like, you know, why they include this act.
Okay, so for the information of everyone, the Kindergarten Act of 2012 widened the scope of free, mandatory, compulsory education to cover preschool. It provides equal opportunities for all children to effectively promote and develop the holistic aspect of the children, such as physical, social, emotional, and values formation for them to be sufficiently prepared for the formal elementary schooling. So thus, kindergarten will now be an integral part of the basic education system of the country. As we all know that education is a right that everyone should access.
Because, okay, another question, Mr. Darlene, so the follow-up question regarding, because they make it as a law, as a Republic Act 11310. So it means it is required every family to, to put their children or their child in schooling in terms of kindergarten. It is required.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, definitely. All children must attend at least a year of kindergarten education before entering grade 1. So in this program, the medium of instruction is the mother tongue of the students or the learners. Okay, and it is monitored by the Bureau of Elementary Education.
Okay, so I read Mr. Phillips said K-12 is a part of educational programs, because that's why they make a Republic Act, they make a law. So thank you
Yes.
so much for that, Mr. Darlene.
Okay, so now on your screen, you can see the other reforms implemented by the Philippine government to address some issues that we have today. So you can look at the screen. Okay, so we have to remember that it's time to make a change, but please don't keep the change. So our education must abreast with the changes in our environment, locally and globally, and course elements, which is the subject matter, delivery style, assessment, technology, and administration. Because all of those things are changing or evolving every time. So therefore, there is no permanent policy in one's nation. Okay, so let's go now on the most exciting part. So the old problems of underfunding, accessibility, equity, and quality issues remain under the current administration. So these problems need to be addressed urgently to ensure the fulfillment of the right to education. So the first problem is the congestion of the classroom. Okay, so the DepEd Undersecretary Jesus Mateo said one way of improving the learning environment is to reduce the class size, classroom pupil, and the teacher-students ratio. So before, the teacher pupil ratios in the Philippines was 1:45, but for the school year 2017 and 2018, the student ratio is 1:31. For the elementary level, 1:36 for the junior high school level, and 1:31 for senior high school level. Although it is still far from the ideal ratio of 1:25 for elementary and 1:35 for high school classroom. Okay, but still we can still see some progress on this area. So based on the results on the recent studies, those countries that have a lower class size scored 408 to 541 points in the PISA reading test, while Thailand, Indonesia, and Philippines, with a ratio ranging from 15 to 36 students per quarter, scored 340 to 304. Size has a big learners' performance and learning. Okay?
Yeah. 1, 2, 3,
4, 5.
Okay, so based on the results of the Asian Development Bank survey in 2014, the Philippines ranked the 16th highest in the number of out-of-school children in 2012 among 8 Asian countries. So to address the issue, the DepEd worked in partnership with the private schools and established the ESC program that aims to make quality junior high school education accessible by providing financial assistance to deserving elementary graduates who wish to enroll in private schools. So what is the issue with regards to ESC grantees? Okay, so based on the study of Jimenez et al. In 2011, there is a governance failure through policy design. So the program has existed for more than 30 years, but there is no systematic evaluation of the program's effectiveness, no enough studies and government audits. It does not decongest public school classrooms. And lastly, it caters poor but undeserving students. Okay?
Yeah, that's the common issues like in the education system way back in the Philippines. All the students, they are like the inclusions. So there are students who are in a lower mental capability, still in the regular class, right? So maybe
Yeah.
that's the main concern right now. The Department of Educations and the policymakers need to learn to study about that. So compared to the other countries, like example here in the United States, that like they are a low mental capability, just considered as special ed, and then they are considered a resource. So there are a gen ed, special ed, and a resource. So they need to study about that kind of thing, especially when they are making and revise the policy in terms of educations in the Philippines, correct?
The Philippine government, upon implementation of any policy, must follow up by the policy analysis or studies to tell whether if the program is effective or not. Okay, if they need to revise the policy,
Yes,
okay,
they need to check. They need to go back the implementation of their policy or the formulation of their policy if there's effective or not, so that they'll be able to know what is the existing issues or concern on the policy that they are making. Correct?
because every program that we make, we put some monies or funds. And
Exactly.
what I read in ESC, they put like 3 billion pesos.
Wow.
Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so from Maslow's hierarchy of needs, a motivational theory, the first thing that motivates one behavior is the physiological needs or the biological requirements for a human to survive, like food and shelters. So poor peace beneficiaries receive a certain amount of cash assistance from the government that would sustain these basic needs. The relevant theory, this help determining and understanding why the purpose beneficiaries absenteeism is prevailing. So another problem is some public teachers and school administrators tolerates the poor piece beneficiary by giving them mercy compliance. So the failure in there is also uh, another issues that the DSWG is looking at is the failure in undergoing checkup and deworming, gambling of poor parents, and pawning of ATM. So next issue is, according to the Department of Education under Secretary Diosdado San Antonio, our curriculum standards for form and context standards are compatible with that standard of any other countries around the world. So however, our curriculum for K to 12 is over congested. Congestion means overcrowding. In simple terms, there is too much in too little space or time. To avoid congestion, one can either increase space or time or reduce whatever is taking space or time. Okay, so our curriculum needs to be reviewed in order to be aligned with the demands of the teacher's employment context. Essentially, this is an issue on responsiveness of the academic program. So the Department of Education recently announced its plan to review the present K-12 curriculum because of the obvious congestions in the learning competencies. Therefore, there has been no proclamation yet of any finalized K-12 basic education curriculum. So the last one is there is a gap of the inclusivity in the policy formulations. So as we all know, there is the School Governing Council, which is also called SGC, that in every schools that encourage local initiatives for improving quality basic educations. So SCG focus on the holistic development of the school children and believes that there must be a shared responsibilities with parents, students, schools, and community, and a shared accountability among school community stakeholders. As we have noticed, there is no parents and students representative. There's no parents and student representative in the planning process of any educational policy because, as we all know, we do centralize. All the policies always goes up on the central office of the Department of Education. So I think we have to increase their roles in planning for us to provide the best learning outcomes for all the learners that we are serving. Okay? So I think that's all for the policy formulation and decision making. If you have any questions, you can type it in the chat box or you can ask later during the on the Q&A portion of our webinar.
Okay,
thank
thank you so much, Mr. Arun. I read some question here from Mr. Smith. So he asked a while ago, it is a must that the pupils must pass through the kindergarten to be admitted to the elementary or preschool or primary school? It is
Yes,
a
Sir Ron,
must?
we're going to answer the questions after the last correspondent, Sir Ron.
Okay, so I thought we were going to ask the questions every correspondence. Anyway, thank you so much, Miss Ederlyn, for that meaningful informations regarding on policy formulations. Okay, thank you so much. So thank you for giving us your continuous ideas and knowledge about policy formulations. So before we're going to proceed to our next correspondence, so we'll be having our information number from a special guest, okay, imported from Thailand. And he is a fifth-year English program faculty of education at Buriram Rajabat University. Please welcome our guest information number. Please go ahead, Mr. Joby Pawarit Ringram.
Ikaw na lang ang siyang kulang sa buhay kong ito. Pangarap ko ang ibigin ka. Tuwing ikaw ay nariyan, sabay kong nadarama ang tapat ligaya. Ang iyong tinig, wari ko ay di marinig, pagkat namamangha pagkausap ka. Kaya nais kong malaman ang sinisigaw nitong aking puso. Pangarap ko ang ibigin ka at sa habang panahon ikaw ay magkasama. Ikaw na lang siyang kulang sa buhay kong ito. Pangarap ko ang ibigin ka. Ikaw kaya ay nais din akong makapiling at ibigin. O kay sarap namang isipin na tayong dalawa ay isang damdamin. Aking hinihiling na sabihin mo ang nilalaman ng iyong puso. Pangarap ko ang ibigin ka at sa habang panahon ikaw ay magkasama. Ikaw na lang ang siyang kulang sa buhay kong ito. Pangarap ko ang ibigin ka. Kung kay katluban na naghihintay na sa akin ay mag-aalay na pag-ibig na tunay at di mapawangkas. Pangarap ko ang ibigin ka at sa habang panahon ikaw ay magkasama. Ikaw na lang siyang kulang sa buhay kong ito. Pangarap ko ang ibigin ka at sa habang panahon ikaw ay magkasama. Ikaw na lang siyang kulang sa buhay kong ito. Pangarap ko, pangarap ko, pangarap ko. Ang ibigin ka. Ang ibigin ka.
Wow, what a fantastic performance, Mr. Jovi. Thank you so much. It mesmerized me seeing you patronizing and singing a Filipino song wherein you are a Thai. So how did you learn that? Okay, thank you so much. So, to our So it's truly indeed that education's system acts as a part of resolutions and creation when it comes to challenges in and of socioeconomic status. The education policy provides education's equal opportunity to all. The education policy reduces the differences between the rich and the poor to the enlightening the poor economic matters, as mentioned by our correspondent, Ms. Edorin a while ago. Now, it's time for us to know about the implementations of a policy in education's importance to the teachers' welfare. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our second correspondent. So our second correspondent, she currently teaches in a government university in Buriram, Thailand. She graduated from Holy Cross of Davao College in elementary education and obtained a master's degree from Pangasinan State University in management education. So Ms. Charlotte has been teaching for 16 years. The first 5 years were spent teaching in preschool level, and last 11 years have been spent primarily as a lecturer at a private university in a medical field. So Ms. Charlotte is a superior interpersonal and communication skill to foster meaningful relationships with students, staff, and parents. So Ms. Yuzon's work as is rooted in the belief that a great education is a foundations to a life success. So we were able to learn and know about policy implementations and a teacher's welfare. So please welcome our second correspondent, Ms. Charlotte Yuzon.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Sawadee ka. So please allow me to share my screen with you guys. Am I audible, Sir Ron?
Yeah. So we're going
Okay.
to discuss today about policy implementations, right? In terms
Yes, Sir
of,
Ron, you're correct.
okay. So how is it? How they're going to implement policy and how it's in relation to a teacher's welfare?
Yes, Sir Ron, thank you for that question. Actually, Sir Ron, this implementation that I select is the welfare of the teachers because it is right to know what are those. And then it is also a right to provide teachers opportunities for their personal and professional growth and continuously finding ways to expand the scope of their welfare and to boost the management of their finances and ensuring them that their work conditions gradually improve by reviewing and simplifying the system process with regards to the benefits and the welfare of the teachers, Sir Ron. Okay, may I continue, right? Okay, so please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Charlotte Amalia Kaakyusan, and I'm presenting to you some of the issues and some of the implementations with regards to the teachers implement benefits and welfare from both Philippines and Thailand. So with regards in Thailand, I'm going to present with you an exclusive interview with none other than my head in international office, Dr. Nawamin Prashanat, is one of the administrator in Buriram Rashapat University. So please wait please wait for that video, guys. It's very interesting for those who are working in in Thailand. So welcome, participants. Thank you for your time. So please allow me to define what is a policy implementation with regards to this. Other groups from the webinar series 1 and 2, it's already been discussed. So an education policy implementation, it's about education policy that can be formally understood as the actions taken by the governments in relation with educational practices and how governments addresses the production and delivery of education in a given system. So in a definition, in the Cambridge and Oxford dictionaries, implementation defines as the act or okay, please excuse me. Plus the act or decision plan, the act or process of putting the decision or plan into action, specifying it is like on how are going to start to use with something. Next is, so sorry, this one. In a wider understanding, acknowledging the act of the private actors, which will be discussed by my co-correspondent, Ms. Lolita, or other institutions such as international and non-government organizations that can originate in educational policies. Other than that, education policies are programs developed by public authorities informed by values and ideas directed to education actors and implemented by administrators in education professionals, according to Ryu and Van Zanten. So with this explanation of these actors in relations with education governance, the further discussion to this is with my correspondent, Ms. Lolita Ominga. With regards to this, schools lies at the heart of the education service delivery in many countries that employs a private and public mixed school system. Their relations with the government and household differs on depending on a school ownership. So the government sets standards and regulations for all schools and provides different levels and forms of funding for public and private schools. So households are co-producers of educations and pursue their interests by exercising choices between the private and public schools. They also make the government accountable primarily through elections, but also increasingly through school management in a various sorts. So with regards to the some implementations and some issues with the benefits and welfare of the teachers, one of those are the upgrade of the teacher salary scale with regards to the basic education or the government teachers. And then second is the amendment of the current system of budgeting the education across the regions, which is based on a participation rates and unit cost. If we say unit cost, there are some also budgeted areas that they don't receive some of the incentives. This will be discussed in a further slides. Okay, Philippines. In this part, I'm going to discuss with you guys the benefits and welfare of those teachers or who are working in a basic education, and then some examples of the higher education in a private university. So with regards to that, with the benefits and the welfare, if we say benefits, benefits are portion of a total compensation package for employees. It's also a comprehensive or a common set of benefits that includes examples that I'm going to show you guys after this. So with regards to the welfare, the health or the happiness and fortunes of a person or a group, or it is a financial support given to people in need or in a provision of a minimal level of the well-being and social support of all citizens and referred to us as a public aid. So one of those benefits and welfare that under the law in the Philippines is RA 4670. It is Magna Carta. Magna Carta is for public school teachers and shall apply for public schools teachers except to those professional staff or state colleges and universities. Magna Carta, it protects the rights of the teachers, like the tenure of office, academic freedom, and other benefits. And then Magna Carta also is for public teachers, passed in 1987 Philippine constitutional and serve as the guide to outer protection and freedom away from the treatment and terminations from the concerned authorities. So with regards to Magna Carta for public school teachers, RA 4670, it promotes and improves the social and economic status of public school teachers, their living and working conditions, their terms in employment, and their career prospects. With regards to the tenureship of the office, as mentioned in the public constitutions, it's the stability of employment and security of tenure shall be assured to the teacher as provided under the existing laws. Teachers appointed in a provisional status shall be extended permanent appointment after having rendered at least 10 years of continuous, efficient, and faithful service in such position. So these are some of the benefits of the government teachers in a basic education. So with the basic employment benefits in the public teachers in the basic education in the Philippines, they have the PhilHealth, the membership, the JSIS benefits, the vacation credits up to 15 days in a year, the leave privileges, maternity, paternity, and studies. Next is okay, the second part of this benefits are the performance-based bonus annual. So these are the PBD, the PBIS or performance grouping. We have also the productivity enhancement or incentive or PEI. We also have the personal economic relief allowance. These are annual benefits, mid-year and year-end bonuses plus the cash gifts. And then we have also clothing allowance, the teaching supply allowance, special hardship allowance from 25% from the basic pay. So with this regards, there are some issues with the special hardship allowance with regards also with the traveling allowance for the ALS teachers. They also have the long-term incentives, loyalty cash incentive, and salary increase. Proportional vocational pay or PVP, the mobile teachers district alternative learning coordinators or the what we call ALS teachers also. Okay, so I interviewed one of the school principal, which is also our classmate in EDV, Ma'am Vidal, Miss Mary Jane Vidal. She is a school principal, and I asked her about the existing laws of the government teachers. So there are how they comply with that. Please excuse me for a while.
So
Okay.
for the meantime, we have
Yes.
3 questions already. Thank you
Yes,
very
sir.
much for your questions and queries.
Okay,
will
thank
be
you, Ma'am
answered.
Lolit. I'm back sorry for that interruption. So with regards to that, Ma'am Vidal also mentioned with the existing laws of the teachers with regards to tenure and benefits. The teachers also they also conduct seminars and trainings for them to know the existing laws and the benefits of the public school teachers. And she also verified to me that some of the benefits there are also reasons that they are not benefited. And also they check if the process or the documents are completed with regards if the teachers are going to get some benefits, or like, for example, the increase of the salary. So they need to prepare the documents. And after that one, there are also process that they need to take with regards to the incentives and some benefits that they need to claim in the government offices. She's my friend. She's an ALS teacher in an island in the Philippines. She quoted that one of the issues in the benefits of the ALS teacher, they need to choose. It's either they want the traveling allowance or the special hardship allowance. This is just quoted by my friend, an ALS teacher in Davao. No, sorry, in Samal, Peña Plata. That because the central office said that it would be a double compensation if they were going to receive both special hardship and traveling allowance. There's a little issue of that because they should get both special and the what they call the traveling allowance. So this is a little issue about the benefits. And then she's my friend. She is Miss Arsenas. She is a chairperson of the Department of Language, Literature, and Arts, regular full-time faculty in Ateneo de Davao University in the college department. I asked her about the benefits and tenure of the Ateneo de Davao University College Department. She said that their current school policy and benefits and tenureship is a result of negotiation between our faculty union and the management. So they are under the collective bargaining agreement, or CBA, and Ateneo de Davao University and College Department. For you to know, guys, that union in different departments they have different sets of officers from the college department, elementary department, and high school department. So she also mentioned to me with regards to the benefits she received in the Ateneo de Davao University. It's the same with the government. They also have the Pag-ibig, the PhilHealth, and with regards to the private university, we have the SSS, and then they also have the most important is the HMO. What is an HMO? An HMO in the Philippines is an health maintenance organization, which is a healthcare delivery system that most of the employees are entitled to use as part of the benefit they receive from their employers. HMOs enable individuals to receive a wide range of medical help for a fraction of price, since it's subsidized by their employers. So one of those also that I confirmed with regards to CBA, or collective bargaining agreement, in Ateneo de Davao University, in elementary department, she's the president of the union president in Ateneo de Davao grade school department. She also confirms with me with regards also with the CBA under the wages, salary, and then the protection of the non-teaching and teaching employees in the private university. Okay, I also asked her about some issues that if the teachers they have the freedom to choose if they want to join a union group or not. So she said that yeah, they have the right also to choose. But if you are like what do you mean, the institution will tell you not to join, the union said it is not allowed because that is against the right to organize. So everybody has the freedom to choose. Okay. With regards to Thailand, where most of us work, I'm going to show you guys some of the benefits of the public school teachers. So this is under the BE 2542/1999, the Office of National Education Commission, Office of the Prime Minister of Thailand. In Section 55, there shall be a law of salaries, remuneration, welfare, and other benefits, allowing the teachers and educational personnel sufficient incomes in a commensurate with their social status and profession. So the Fund of Promotion and Development of the Teachers and Faculty of Staff and Education Personnel shall be established to be used as the grant for innovations, outstanding achievement, and rewards in honor of teachers, faculty, staff, teaching personnel, as stipulated in the ministerial regulations. So these are some of the government benefits or government officials with the in the offices or teachers. They get the salary, position allowance, extra money, the welfare and the benefits. They also have the tuition for their child, and then they'll have the enseña. This is for the police and soldiers. They have the pension, medical fee, this for free, and then the leave. So these are the basic benefits and welfare of the basic education in Thailand. So with regards to that, they also have, aside from that, the house rent for free. In our university, in Rajavat University, most of our lecturers and professors, they have free house rent, and they have free dormitory for the Thai teachers. And also they have travel expenses when they're going on duty for seminars. And a company car is given to the higher position. And for example, our president in the university, she has this company car and then the mobile phones. So I'm giving you guys an exclusive interview from the head of office of international office, my boss. So please watch. Number 4 is, how do you formulate, implement policies that concerns with the foreign teachers? And then I have follow-up questions with the government employee or the lecturer also. So we're going to tackle about, first is the foreign teacher. So how do you make these policies, like from our, like for me and Ajahn Bulita, our first way to work here is to like to pass the interview and everything, right? So after that, when we get the job, so how do you prepare these policies for us?
Actually, okay, I want to tell you about why we have to have some foreign teacher with us. Normally, we know that English is very important. We just employ the foreign teacher who are very good in English, and then just in this point, the government just provide 5 positions for us. The what is it? The salary, the salary of the foreign teachers, is from the government, So this is a very important one, But if we want more, we have to to up the university, that it's 5 positions, are not enough, because we have many students who are waiting for improving their English, language ability. When we employ them, so we just set the criteria, Actually, it's not just only the foreign people who are from 5 countries, but from from another country, right? And then we just take a look for the what do we call the overhead, right? That they issue, the qualification of the foreign teachers too. And then after that, we have to to follow it, right? Everything are from the overhead, right? But for specific requirement, we just set here, and then we just we just set our staff, just set the criteria for that, and then we just propose to the university board, and then let them to approve. Is it okay or not?
So that's the board.
Yes, right. We have the board.
Okay, one of the I mean, it's not a sensitive issue, but I just know it clearly from my colleagues and from the other lecturers that I've met in the private university that most of you here in a government university is not under a what we call that one a benefit, but that was like changed like for 4 or 5 years ago, right? So they usually called you as a government, no, a university employee now. Before, you have a set of government employee. So what's the difference, sir, now with regards to the benefits and the tenure of the past government employee, and then as you call university employee? What's the difference?
Actually, in this point, I think that the government tried to delete the budget, to take care of the government, people after their retirement, right? That's why,
That's the issue, the main issue.
Yes, the main issue, right? Because, for example, for me, I'm the government official,
Yeah, you are.
right? After retirement, the government have to pay my salary until
So can you give me one example, at least 2 example benefits that you get from the government benefits?
The first one in general, we can have it's about the welfare, right? When we go to the hospital, it's no need for us to pay, right? Because the government will pay for us, but it's not all, right? That's the first one. And the second one, they can provide us the housing, the housing or the rental, of our housing if the university do not provide for us, right? And then just the very important one. Okay, after retirement, okay, we get the salary. But for the university, it's no.
Oh.
When they finish, right, 60 years, and then after retirement, nothing with them.
So you
Just only the social welfare.
Oh, okay. So what we call that one in the government benefit is like a lump sum, right?
Yes.
So you have two options, right? You get the whole amount. and then a lump sum.
We can choose
Yeah. Okay.
a lump sum or maybe each month, right?
Ah,
It
okay.
depends on that. But our salary will decrease, okay, about 70%. Right. For example, when if the last salary of me is about what do we call about 70,000 baht, and then after retirement I may get about 50,000
Okay.
baht a month.
Okay.
Or if we want a lump sum, we have to tell them, and then we
The
pay
whole amount.
just only one.
So with regards to that, the university employee or lecturer, they will not get that
No,
benefit.
they get another one because the university try to to imitate, okay, copy the policy from the government.
That's
to
under the
use
law of the Thailand or just under the policy of the university.
the university.
Mm.
And then we have another one is social welfare, and then we have another one, for example, some part of their salary will go into our what do we call the funding, the fund
fund.
right here. And then if they reach 60 years, right, and they can get it, but it depends on the year that they work here. But they have to work here at least 10 years, okay, and
So
then they
it's
can
different
get it.
from the social security.
Yes, different one.
Okay.
For
I
example,
understand.
we have about 5 support and teaching staff here that they get retirement. Some get about just only 200,000 baht as a lump sum, and then some of them 500,000 baht. Right?
Okay.
Okay, it depends.
So there are a lot of differences.
Yes, right.
But actually,
Yes, Sir Ron. That's my exclusive interview from the head of international office in Rajabhat University. What is my highlight there? The highlight there is the benefits of the government employee and the university employee. It's different. So as what you get from the interview, they get the whole amount from the government, while the university employee, as of now, they are called as university employee, not a government government employee. So that's the difference. And then other highlight there is the health, which is different from the Philippines, Sarah.
Oh yeah, so in terms of eye health, I just want to ask, because you're exposed in both educational system and benefits both Thailand and the Philippines. So in terms of health, what benefits that you have that you didn't get in the Philippines in Thailand?
Yeah, thank you for that nice question, Sir Ron. With regards to the benefits in the healthcare, we have that what we call SSO. Most of the teachers in the in both in private and public foreign or Thai people receive this kind of benefit. With regards to SSO, we also get the free medicine. We do not pay at least 1 baht or a cent in baht because it's a free. But there are some medicines that are not under SSO. So that's another code for that. So with regards to the SSO of my child, because he was born here, he's free also under the law of in Thailand. So with regards to that, it's another benefits of the children who are born in Thailand. So with regards to the teachers, it's another benefits for the teachers around.
I just want to follow up, Ms. Charlotte, regarding on the health, because like in the Philippines, I just remembered when you're going to you have some health issue and you're going to file a health benefits, you're having a hard time, right? To request or file for benefits for health. How about in Thailand?
No, nothing. You will not pay it's zero, Sir Ron. It's as my personal experience as teachers for 16 years in Thailand. I did not pay. And then one best example is my husband. He's a diabetic and he needs to go to the hospital every month for the medicine, and it's free and it's zero. But you have to choose in the school, in a university, they will going to inform you to choose a particular particular government hospital. It's a government hospital, not a private hospital, sir. So when you go to the hospital and then you will be admitted, so it's zero. It will be a part of the benefits of the SSO. And aside from that, one of the highlights in an SSO is that you have a savings for teachers in Thailand. But what is the disadvantage there? You will not get that savings until you reach 60 years old or 55. So it's a part of the SSO privilege of the teachers, both in foreign and Thai teachers or workers in Thailand. Thank you, Sir Ron. Hope you get something there.
Thank you, Ms. Cha. So hopefully the Philippines will follow that kind of policy in terms of health benefits of the teacher, right?
Yes,
Just like I said, they're
yes.
really different. It's really different. So thank you so much, Doc Cha. So it's truly indeed that the increased spending on the basic education, especially in the health, as well as on the alternative night school, as you mentioned a while ago. So system, as mentioned, a centerpiece of educations. In addition, policy implementations intends to ensure the country provides the quality education that's accessible to all and relevant to the needs of the nations. So we should also find education truly liberating through the development and critical thinking skills and appreciations of cultures of both local and international policy of education. So thank you so much, Doc Cha, for sharing that very informative information in terms of implementations of policy for teachers' welfare. So for our last correspondent for tonight webinar, so she will be discussing out about a policy, education, and analysis. So it's a pivotal because we will be able to learn how policy evaluation analysis plays a vital role in the educational systems. So let me introduce to you our last correspondent. So she is born and as an educator, being in service for 24 years. Wow, 24 years. A graduate of ABBSE History in the University of Coldereras, Baguio City, and she has a master's in social studies in Benguet State University. So she served as department head of the social studies area for 6 years and was community coordinator of the College of Teacher Educations of the University of the Cordilleras, where she served as 20 years. Excuse me. She was also given the chance to be an advisor of the Supreme Student Councils of the same university for 3 years. So she decided to move in Thailand in last 2017 after filing her early retirement. She was a former English communication teacher of Sarasas Wataed Bangwatong for 3 years and was awarded as one of the excellent teachers under the foreign department, and last year under the Nakhon Pathom Rahabat University as an English project in Samkok School, Pathom Thani. At present, she is now a lecturer at the Human and Social Science Department of Buriram Rajabat University. As an educator, she's always believed that every child has a potential to become a genius, and she always to be guided by the principles, do your best, no matter how small, and always glorify God in everything you do. So without further ado, for our third correspondence, so let's welcome Ms. Lolita Ominga. So ma'am, you're going to discuss about education's policy evaluation and analysis, right? So how is it? How is the process of doing this? After formulations, implementing the policy, we are now to evaluate and doing analysis. So how does it work?
Yeah, I will talk about it as we are to go through my slides. So thank you very much for that introduction, Sir Ron. First of all, I just want to greet everybody a pleasant and a blessed evening. So I am your last correspondent tonight. I will be discussing and presenting to you policy evaluation and analysis. So we have the whole policy process. We have the first four policy process were actually discussed by my co-correspondent in group 3. So I am tasked to discuss the last two. We have the policy evaluation analysis and the policy adjustment. And then after this last two steps, we have again to repeat the whole policy process. Okay, so before I will dig in deeper into the last two steps or the last two steps of the policy process, I just want to present this person. Okay, so this person is no other than Marc Antoine Julien. I hope I had pronounced his name. I had given justice pronouncing his name. He is a father of comparative education. He was the first one to propose that surveys should be undertaken based on comparative analysis table. And he is also the first one to actually propose that special education committee should be established for countries to conduct educational reforms based on research results. Okay, so the research results are actually to be the information that are to be systematically collected and that are to be presented in a comparative analysis table. So why is it that this person is to be very important in the whole of the policy process or the whole of what we call educational reforms, not only in the Philippines, not only in Thailand, but all over the world, okay? Because of he is the father of comparative education, okay? So he actually, from his set of proposals, we had the process of educational reforms and educational policy because of we tend to compare our system of education to other countries or with other countries. So that's why we need to analyze and evaluate our policies in line with education, and then after we are to analyze our policies in line with education, we are to have our educational reforms. So the thing that we are to have in the education system, curriculum revision, and so on and so forth, it is actually because of this person. So we tend to compare the system of education with different parts of the world. First world countries versus the developing countries versus the third world countries, and so on and so forth. Okay, so in evaluating the education sector of a given country, according to Marc Antoine Julien, the country's educational situation should be placed in relative terms through comparison with that of other countries. Okay, so and with the proposal of Marc Antoine Julien, he actually predicted what is happening right now in the educational system. Okay, because of we are to collect data, we are to compile and analyze data in line with education. And those data are to be collected by the most notable international bodies. Okay, so they analyzed, and they are to present this in a statistical form, and they actually work with the ministries of education of different countries around the world. Okay, so they present this statistical data. So we have UNESCO. Okay, so I know everybody knows what UNESCO means. So UNESCO and OECD. So UNESCO is actually the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. And OECD is an organization for economic cooperation and development. So these are just examples of international agencies that are to collect data from the different countries wherein they are to work closely with the ministries of education. Okay. All right, so because of statistical data collected by the monitoring agencies or the international agencies, they had presented the education indicators, okay, classified by areas of educational reforms. Actually, this was already mentioned by our correspondent, Miss Ederlyn, a while back. So these are to be the areas of education reforms. So from the statistical data and from the studies and researches of the international agencies, they would present these education indicators, which are to be the concern of what we call our education reform. So we have the accessibility of our education. Again, not only in the Philippines, but and also in Thailand, but all over the world. So we have the equity, the quality, the relevance of the curriculum. So if you take note of what we call the indicators here, so how relevant our curriculum at present. Okay, so it would actually measure the employment and unemployment rate of our graduates. Okay, so that is part of actually analyzing how relevant our curriculum is. Okay, so we have the internal efficiency, the external efficiency, and the cost financing. So this would be presented, and this is actually to be followed by, or these are to be as what I had mentioned a while back, these are subject of our education reforms. And if we are to have education reforms, of course, we have educational policies. We are to analyze and evaluate our educational policies. Okay, so, all right. So when we say evaluation, okay, so policy evaluation means it is a systematic investigation of the merit, worth, or significance of a policy. So we are to answer the following questions. So what are we going to evaluate? What policy? Okay, so we have the how. How are we going to evaluate? When are we going to evaluate? What's next after our evaluation? Okay, are we to address pertinent issues or concerns when it comes to the issues when it comes to our educational system? Okay, and then we have the who will evaluate, who are the beneficiaries. So Miss Ederlyn would actually talk about the actors, and Miss Charlotte also talk about the actors in the policy process, in the policy implementation, and of course decision making. So that would be the who. And then for what, okay, is our policy evaluation. From there, I got this as a friend. I got this from it will be present. My reference is listed in the last slide, but I got this as one of the framework for the education evaluation process. Okay, so to answer what we call, to further answer the questions that would revolve around policy evaluation, we have the following. So when we say who and how, the strategy that would answer the when, why, and what of the policy evaluation process. For what is our learning, and then of course we have the insight and the mindset of those who are to evaluate the policy. Okay, so it's very important. And then of course we cannot evaluate we cannot move, we cannot do a certain step when it comes to policy making, policy reform, if we do not have the last one. Okay, we need the funding. All right, so, and then of course the foundation, where is the policy coming from? All right, so we have the factors to be evaluated in considering policy options. So why are we evaluating a policy? Because we have an option, right? So if the policy is not working, or if there is something not effective with a certain policy, of course you lay down a policy option. That's why you are to have the policy evaluation. So when it comes to evaluating a policy option, you need to consider the following: the desirability, the affordability, and the feasibility. Okay, so desirability from the term alone is the policy option desirable. Desirable for who? Okay, so desirable when it comes to the beneficiaries. Okay, who will benefit? who will benefit from what we call the policy evaluation, right? So is it desirable for them? Is it that would it meet what we call their let me term it as their demand, or would it meet their needs? Okay. And then when we say option affordability, affordability means finances. Okay. So this considered the cost implication or the monetary cost as well as the political cost. So it says affordability, monetary, opportunity cost, and political cost. Okay, the feasibility option is actually feasibility is evaluating what we call the adequacy when it comes to the implementation of the policy. Okay, so is it feasible? Like, for example, the resources, the quantity and the quality for the success of what we call the said policy. So those are to be considered when it comes to evaluating a policy before we are to completely reform or maybe change a certain policy. So we need to consider this one. And then we have the stages in education policy evaluation. So we have 6. So these are actually to be mentioned a while back. So engage the stakeholders. So the stakeholders are both the policy the teachers, the students, or the actors in the policy making process. Okay, so we have, you need to describe the policy. What is the policy all about? Okay, it can be actually the objective. You need to consider also the objective of the policy, which is very important. Focus on the policy evaluation design. Our webinar 2 actually presented us with different frameworks when it comes to evaluating the policy. And then we have number 4 would be gather credible evidences. Okay. And then justify the conclusion. And then, of course, after you are to justify the conclusion, you need to share. You need to actually present it to that includes the stakeholders. Okay, before you are to implement again. Okay, so that would be the stages in education policy evaluation. All right, so in line with policy evaluation, these are actually to be inseparable, policy evaluation and analysis. So when we say policy analysis, it is the examination and description of the causes and consequences of the policy on the target population. Okay, so again, we have there the stakeholders that are to be considered. These are to be what we call given importance in the policy analysis. So what are we going to analyze? So first, we have the contents. I cannot see my slide over there. We have the content of the policy. How was it formulated? How was it implemented? The impact, okay, and justify the expenditure. So definitely those are the important parts of policy, okay, or policies, educational policies. So I had mentioned a while back that policy evaluation and policy analysis are inseparable because of, especially if you are after reforming an educational system. Okay, policy evaluation is an output, numerical output. Policy analysis actually measures the impact. So it's not, they are inseparable because of, if you only go for policy evaluation, you're only after numbers. But take note, when we say analysis and evaluation, we go deeper. Okay, so like for example, we have the policy or education policy, NCLB, no child left behind. Okay, so that is to meet the what we call the sustainable development goal. Okay, so no child left behind. All right, so if we implement this, these are to be implemented all over the world. Yes, so in Thailand, in the Philippines. So if we are to evaluate the policy, the effectivity of the policy, what would be the expected output? Okay, so expected output with the implementation of the NCLB, we have the increase of the rate of graduates per academic year. Okay, so you have there, if you are to do the research. So the NCLB, of course, no child left behind. All right, graduate, increase of rates when it comes to graduates, number of graduates. Okay, policy analysis is we tend to go deeper, the impact. So what are the factors, okay, or what would be situations that we need to analyze, okay, with regards the NCLB policy. One of the questions that I want to throw to everybody, since we are to be educators, with the NCLB policy, are our graduates worth to be called as graduates under the NCLB? Okay, so that is one. That is to be again analyzed. Or in the policy evaluation with the high rates of graduates, because of the NCLB, take note the numbers or the figures would not actually include the figure of those students who are to drop out every academic year. It's not to be included in the numerical output or in the figure. But that is need to be analyzed when it comes to the NCLB policy. So that is that's why actually I mentioned that policy evaluation and analysis are to be inseparable. They should go together, because if you go only for evaluation, that would only be numbers. If you go into analysis without evaluation, okay, you need numbers or figures for you to analyze something. All right, so that would be policy analysis and policy evaluation. There are also steps in analyzing educational policies. So we need to re-examine the policy objective. We need to examine the processes that was obtained in the implementation already, and then study the details of what has been done to achieve the goals. So what has been done and what has not been done, okay, in the policy implementation. Assess the policy impact on the target population. And then, of course, you need to, if our educators are actually familiar with the SWOT analysis, the strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats of a certain policy. So we have 4 and 5. Intended, unintended, and future consequences. And then, of course, the last there would be the cost again. So the money that needs to be considered. Okay, so the monetary cost. Okay, so that would be the steps in analyzing educational policies. If you have any questions, all right. So our co-correspondents are taking down notes, your questions, especially our correspondent Ronnie Lamboso. We have problems of educational policy analysis and evaluation. First problem that would be actually considered or to be taken note when it comes to policy analysis and evaluation would be the policy goals. Objectives are not clearly to be stated. Inability to collect correct data. Like, for example, our correspondent, Miss Ederlin, a while back, would actually tell us that we have families who are recipient of 4Ps, but they are not really supposed to be the recipient or the beneficiary of 4Ps. So why are we having this situation when it comes to 4Ps policy in the Philippines? It's because of we have the inability to collect correct data. Okay, so the data that we are to have or to use in the implementation of such policy is not really to be the correct correct data. Okay, in line with the inability to collect correct data is enough time is not spent properly. Yeah, there is enough time, or maybe not enough time, especially in the Philippines, as we are to change the political actors, we change the policy. Okay, so there is, when it comes to policy, maybe there is not enough time to implement the policy, to analyze the effectivity of the policy because of the political actors, okay? Or if there is enough time, as we all know, when you are to work in a government office, well, everybody knows how a government, not all, but some, okay? And then we have the lack of sophisticated tools. All right, so those are some of the problems when it comes to policy analysis and policy evaluation. Okay, so when it comes to this education policy, does it matter when it comes to policy evaluation and analysis and policy adjustment and policy reform? I'll be actually applying the policy process, the last two steps in line with higher educational institutions in Thailand and in the Philippines. Okay, so remember that higher educational institutions or universities in the society plays a vital role. Okay, so they have a unique position in the society. So universities or higher educational institutions, private or state universities, that are to be the driving force both in global, national, local innovation, economic development, as well as social welfare aspect. Okay, so that's why they played a critical role in the achievement of an engagement when it comes to the sustainable goals of education. Okay, so let us first take, so let us first take a look or analyze, because of, if we are to analyze the educational system of the country, we need to see and understand the structure of educational system, the structure of the educational system. So this is the educational system of Thailand. I cannot see the other part. Okay, so I will consult my other. All right, so we have here the Ministry of Education is the highest. Okay, it's the lead ministry of the national level that governs all the educational level from primary until to the higher educational institutions. So it, in theory, it formulates the policy. So later on, I will answer my own statement. Why is it that I said it's in theory they formulate the policy? Okay. The Ministry of Education evaluates, plans, and allocates resources for the different educational sectors. Okay, so you might be asking yourself, or you might be wondering why we have what we call a direct arrow and a broken arrow that connects the different branches. Okay, so we have I will have that later. So I will explain this later as I am to discuss the policy process. Okay, so we have there the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Interior, and the rest. So this would be the national level. This would be what we call the local, and these are the implementing agencies of the structure of the education system in Thailand. Okay, so I'll go to the next. Excuse me if I will discuss a little bit faster because of there are a lot of questions in our chat box, and I want to give time, more time in our question and answer.
Yeah.
I think there would be a lot of questions and
Yeah, we're
answers.
going to answer those questions after your topic, Ms. Lolita.
Okay, so I'm halfway. All right, so the Ministry of Education have 5 sub-branches or 5 main offices. We have the Office of Permanent Secretary, the Office or OPS. The Office of the Permanent Secretary is what we call the administration unit of the Ministry of Education. It has its what we call subordinates, the ONI, the OPEC, the NITEP, and the OTPC. Okay, so NITEP is the National Institute for ONI, sorry. So ONI is the special. Okay, so ONI, sorry. Okay, so ONI is the Office of the Non-Formal, sorry for that. So non-formal and informal education. We have the OPEC is the Office of the Private Education Sector. So that's why private schools are under the OPEC, under the OPS office. So we have the NITTEP is the National Institute for Development of Teachers. Okay. So we have also the Office of Education Council. It's the overall planning when it comes to curriculum, research and education standards. We have the Office of the Basic Education, Office of Textbook. We have the Office of the Higher Education or the OHEC. So aside from these 5 subordinate office, we have also other offices that are to be directly controlled by the Ministry of Education. We have the TCT, that is the Teachers Council in Thailand. So this is to be the office that would be mainly, its main concern is to issue licenses, both foreign and local. Okay, we have also the Committee for Promotion of the Benefits and Welfare of Teachers and Educational Personnel. The things that were discussed by Ms. Yuson a while back in Thailand, those are the benefits actually is under this office, Committee for Promotion, Benefits and Welfare. So they take charge of that. We have the last one would be the IPST, the Institute for the Promotion of Teaching Service and Technology. So this would be concerning more on what we call science and technology. All right, so we have, when it comes, I hope you can see. Can I? All right. So we have the policy process when it comes to the structure of the educational system. So we have the national level, starting from the Ministry of Education down to the higher education institutions. These are to be the formulating body, okay, formulating body in theory, okay. They formulate policies, they plan the standards, support resources, monitors, and evaluate, okay. So when it comes to support, especially when it comes to resources, monitor and evaluation, yes. Okay, so they have that. They play that function. All right. Educational, this under the local government or under the local units, we have, they are the ones who supervise and support the promotion and the implementation of the policies. Okay, and we have there the implementation agencies. All right. So a while back, I told you what would be the relationship of the direct arrow and the broken arrow. So the direct arrow would mean that they are to be the direct line of authority. So like, for example, Ministry of Education is to be controlling, or educational services areas or ESAS is to be under directly Ministry of Education. Ministry of higher OHEC is to be directly under the Ministry of Education. So we have there the Ministry of Ministry of Interior, right? So Ministry of Interior, there's a broken line. So Ministry of Interior supports and coordinates and promotes whatever policies that would be implemented by the Ministry of Education. And they would be there, they would be monitoring what we call local administration organizations. Okay. Because what makes the education different in Thailand would be the local government can actually have or can actually maintain a school. Okay, so like, for example, local administration or provinces, they can actually offer education at any levels. Okay, but they are to submit under the Ministry of Interior. Okay, so that would mean, that is the meaning of the broken arrow and the what we call the full arrow, or the broken line or the full line. Okay, so that would be the process already. All right, so we go to the OHEC. OHEC, that is the Office of the Higher Education. So it is to be the primary agency for higher education, they monitor, supervise policies through what we call the internal quality assurance. There is a law that would include external quality assurance already. They have 4 missions, of course, produce graduates, conduct research, preserve arts and culture. Okay, it's very important for the Thai people. So culture is to be very part of who they are. Okay, that's why their culture is to be really to be preserved. Okay, so number 3, but of course, when it comes to the generation of today, there would be difference already. So they propose policies, they provide resources. I will not, that would be main function, as well as that is the same with the CHED Commission on Higher Education in the Philippines. Okay, so we have 4 categories of higher education institutions. We have community colleges, we have bachelor degrees, specialized institutions, and then institutions on advanced research. Okay, so these institutions are purely for research. Specialized institutions, I'll give example, the university that myself and Ms. Charlotte, as well as our participant, Ajahn Smith, is actually working, that is originally a specialized institution, Buriram Rajabat University, or Rajabat universities all over Thailand. It is a specialized institution originally because it is to produce teacher graduates or education graduates. Okay, Rajamangala University all over Thailand is actually to be a specialized institution that would be for engineering and technicians. Okay, let me check that. I might give you, all right. So engineers and technicians, okay? But today it's Rajabat and Rajamangala, they're also to be bachelor degrees because they offer other courses already. Might be because of that would be the need of the community that they are into. That's why they offer other courses already. So we have
Ms.
community
Lolita,
colleges.
I just wanted to interrupt.
Yes.
So how about the specialized institutions and the because I'm very confused regarding on this. I just want to ask, what is the difference between the specialized institutions and the bachelor's degree in terms of numbers of years of like schooling? So
okay. Yeah. All right. So thank you, Sir Ron, for that. So under the specialized institution, like for example, of bachelor degrees. So how many years would they complete their degree? Okay. Did I get it correctly? So how many years? It actually depends on the curriculum of the course. Like for example, for education. So basically, education in Thailand would be 5 to 6 years. In the Philippines, it's 4 years, but in the here in Thailand, it's actually 5 to 6 years. Okay,
5
that
years.
includes actually 5 years or 6 years. They would go until 6 years. That is the maximum. Okay, so 5 years in Thailand. So that is for specialized education, specialized institutions offering college of teacher or teacher education. Okay, so for other courses, it depends on their curriculum. So the units that they would actually are required to meet. So I think we have an interview, no, not yet. All right, so that would be depending on their curriculum. So how many required units would they complete, Sir Ron?
Okay, so once they are complete, so they are ready to go, right?
Yes.
So compared to the bachelor's degree, we need to earn 4-year course before you
so
go to
maximum is 4
college.
years. Maximum is 4 years.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sir Ron. So I will proceed. I mentioned a while back, so when it comes to monitoring HEIs in Thailand, so OHEC would have its quality assurance of 2000 and quality assurance of 2010. Okay, so this is actually to be the organization or the agency that would assess the quality of education of HEIs in Thailand. So it encompasses internal and external. So they are to introduce quality assurance of 2010, still to be, they are to have this until at present, to introduce regulations or announce criteria and practices for internal quality assurance to facilitate support and improve the internal quality assurance processes at higher education institutions, to propose guidelines for ongoing improvement and development, and then of course to expand or to include quality assessment, inspection, and development. So that would be the function of the quality assurance. So they propose the guideline, or it's not actually to be proposed, it's not actually to propose, but it's already to be there. It's already to be a criteria or indicator that is to be in place. They're only to implement it. They're only, the different institutions would only to meet these criteria. And the different institutions would assess themselves. So that's why we have internal assessment. Okay, we have the external assessment. I will talk about that as we go through. So we have the internal and external assessment. Okay, so under section 48 of the quality assurance assessment, we have identifies parent organization. So this is part of the stakeholder. Okay, wherein they play an important role in the internal assessment of the HEIs. So internal quality assurance must be part of the educational administration and must be a continuous process. Section 49 suggests about the external quality assessment that an office of national education standards and quality assessment shall be established as a public organization responsible for development of criteria and methods of external evaluation, conducting evaluation of educational achievements in order to assess the quality of institutions. Okay, so that would be 48, section 48 and section 49. So the relationship between internal quality assurance and external, so this would be inside the institution. So the institutional operation, institutional assessment, their self-assessment report, it is to be presented to it is to be audited by the parent organization once in every 3 years. Okay, so once in every 3 years. But the internal assurance is to be done every academic year. Okay, so they need to assess themselves every year. But it is to be, the report for 3 years, it is to be audited by the parents. Okay, so the external, that is the site visits of an outside organization. Site visit mostly coming from the OHEC and mostly coming from the Ministry of Education and the local government office. Okay, so that is a external quality assessment. Site visits, evaluation reports, and then they are to monitor. And if the institution did not meet the indicators or did not meet the requirement for the quality assurance, they would go back, assess again, and then they would invite again the external quality assessment organization. Okay. What is for us, maybe if you try to interpret, maybe it's okay for us to have the internal quality assurance, external quality assurance, but it is not really to be functioning as it is an assessment body, especially when it comes to the external quality assessment, because of the institution has the prerogative if they are to invite the external assessment. So if they do not like, no. Okay, so they just submit. Okay, and it is done only every after 5 years. It's not done every after 2 years or per academic year. It is done after 5 years. Okay, every after 5 years. Okay, so that would be the relationship between the internal quality assurance and the external quality assurance. I think this will be my last slide for Thailand. I will go to the Philippines. Constitutional, all right, so this slide would now be answering my statement or my question, my statement a while back, that Ministry of Education, in theory, plans the, or writes the policy, educational policy, in Thailand. Okay, so remember, we need to understand the government, the style of government of Thailand. So it's a constitutional monarchy. We have the king and we have the prime minister. Okay, so in line with the prime minister, the role of the prime minister, he actually is to be all right, so we have the National Reform Steering Assembly. The National Reform Steering Assembly, or the NRSA, is to be assuming the responsibility for developing education policy. Okay, so the NRSA. The NRSA has, they call the Super Board, okay? And the Super Board is to be headed by the Prime Minister of Thailand. Okay, so that's why whatever would be the education policy that is to be written under the NRSA, it is to be passed to the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Education to the Ministry of Interior, to OHEC, and to the implementing bodies. Okay, so that's why the role only of Ministry of Education of Thailand is only to implement, actually. The one who develops educational policy is the NRSA under the leadership of the Super Board, and that is headed by the Prime Minister. Okay, so maybe we can say that the Super Board is the invisible hand behind what we call the Ministry of Education. All right. So because of that, we have some issues and concern when it comes to educational policies, evaluation, and analysis in Thailand. So first, confusion when it comes to the criteria of internal assessment and external assessment. Okay, so based from my readings, the teachers would be confused, okay, when it comes to the criteria used in educational assurance, okay. Confused because of, they said there's a lot. So they said that problems from inconsistency in flexibility of indicators, excessive documentation, okay, for the teachers. That's the same in the Philippines. Okay, so we are teaching, at the same time we need to do documents. All right, so that would be confusion and then workload. We have the desired image that we want to portray, or the higher educational institution want to portray. They can portray it because of they have the internal assessment. Okay, and then next one, inadequate and unequal resource and financial barriers. So from the national education law that I presented a while back, so the curriculum under the Prime Minister at present shifted from content-based to standard-based. Okay, so there was a shift in the curriculum, content-based to standard-based. It's not, in the Philippines, we have the outcome-based already, but in Thailand, still to be standard-based, and they have standardized tests everywhere, okay, in all levels. With the new curriculum, the teachers are not to be trained properly. The implementation of the curriculum, no monetary support, no training for the teachers. That's why we have unequal resources and financial barriers. Unequal resource because of the higher educational schools in Bangkok are to be the priority. It's because of Bangkok is the heart of Thailand. So unequal resources, schools in the provinces, they receive not that much when it comes to financial support coming from the government, especially from the Ministry of Education. So that's why unequal resources when it comes to barriers. And then the last one, of course, we have the political issues of political actors. So policies in all branches of the government or in our society would actually be depending on the political actors. Okay. In the Philippines, we are to have the election on Monday. I hope that the one who will be elected would be all right. So that is in line with the political actors. So that would be the problems when it comes to when it comes to the policy process in Thailand. So the policy process in Thailand would be further described by the head of the foreign department, the head of the foreign office of Buriram Rajabat University, wherein we had the interview together with Miss Charlotte. So maybe I can play a little bit of that. So he would further discuss and further present the policy process, educational policy process when it comes to higher educational institution in Thailand.
Okay, can I share the video?
Okay, so I will stop, right?
Yeah, thank you. Interview with our subject, with Dr. Philip. So I'm Ms. Charlotte Amalia Pacusan, and with me is Ms. Lolita, and our guest for today is Dr. Nawomin, the head of Rajapat University. So we're here for you to ask to clarify some of the issues. Process in regards with the policy of the government universities and private universities. So the first question, Mr. Nawomin, is the first one is your idea of the policy process among the higher education institutions under OHEC and then the private higher educational institutions. So what's the differences, like the overall, the general process of the policy with regards to the government and then the private universities?
Okay, thank you very much for your questions, right? And interviewing me today, okay, about the policy, okay, in Thailand, especially in the university levels. Normally, okay, both private and public universities, okay, are under the Office of Higher Education Commission, right? Just the same. So when we take a look for the policy, we are under the same policy, okay, in Thailand, right? So they have to follow with the policy from the government, especially for the top, okay, office, okay, I mean the Office of Higher Education. But okay, the process sometimes is quite different in what do we call the time that we use. For example, if we want to do something, the private one, because the privates, okay, are under the owner of the university. So sometimes they spend just only 2 or 3 days, okay, to do something. But for the public university, we spend about 5 days, something like that. Actually, when we want to do something, we can pick some policy that we think that we are very, very famous and have the reputation about that. So just now, okay, we have another policy that we call reinventing university, right? So it means that the university classification. So we can choose, okay, what type of the university that we will use it. For example, our university, Rajapat Universities, about 95% of us, okay, are under the area-based university. So our mission, our main mission is to serve the community. But some university, they should just only to produce the innovation, okay, and sell. For example, Suranari University or Kim Mongkut University, okay, because they produce, okay, mainly, okay, on the engineering, so they can choose another one, right? So, but actually we are under
So that is actually
our
under
Office of Higher Education.
So most of All right, so that would be describing what we call the policy process, the difference of the policy process between the government universities and private. So as according to Dr. Nawamin, when it comes to private controlled institutions, at least they have actually a different policy, but not that big policy. It would only concern their institution as a whole, especially in line with what we call the interest of the owner of the private university. But of course, when it comes to state universities or government universities, it is actually to be top-down process. All right, so I'll continue. I hope I can. All right, so this was actually presented a while back already. So the educational system in the Philippines, it is to be, we have the DepEd for basic education, commission and higher education for HEIs, and then TechVoc. All right, so we have the structure. Higher educational institutions in the Philippines actually have macro and micro functions. So I had already presented a while back how important higher education institutions in our society. Okay, so they specifically, they are to be very important because of the following. Okay. Builds human capital, generates new knowledge, engenders innovation, and so on and so forth. So micro level, we are to actually enhances and expands career and life chances and changes, and they're expected to produce a person or a graduate that would really have the desire to serve and the nation, and they develop what we call competency for lifelong. Sectarian and non-sectarian, that is the distribution of higher education institutions in the Philippines. Okay, so I will not go to that anymore. Distribution of higher education, so as you can see, 88% privately owned. Okay, 5.8% state universities. Okay, so that's why higher education, if we will have the issues, pertinent issues later, this data is to be very important. Right. So yeah, so we have the pertinent issues when it comes to HEIs in the Philippines. We have, the first one is the limited access to quality higher education. Commercialization of higher education. Why commercialization? Because of privately owned. Okay. Mostly of our higher education institutions are privately owned. And then we have deteriorating quality education, mismatch, low productivity in research and development. And then we have corrupt practices. All right, so to meet these pertinent issues, what are the policies that are now to be implemented to at least augment, okay, or at least to solve at a certain level these issues in our education, specific that concerns higher educational institution. So first would be when it comes to limited access to quality higher education, as it was mentioned by our first correspondent, we have the two specific laws that are now to be implemented. We have the Republic Act 10931, that is Universal Access to Quality Tertiary Education Act, or that is known to be the UQATE. Okay, so pertinent provision is the free tuition and school fees for students in SUCs or state universities and LUCs, okay, local universities and state-run tech-voc institutions. Okay, the UNIFAS, Republic Act 10867, is a unified financial assistance. It is to be publicly funded scholarship grant for senior high school. Okay, so for senior high school, it is also to institutionalize one of the pertinent directive also is to institutionalize the qualifying exam and registry of institutions and programs. So that is under the UNIFAS for the senior high school. So we have the Republic Act 10931 that is to be implemented at present. We have some researchers already like what was mentioned by our classmate or by Miss Ederlin, there are to be problems like, for example, the beneficiaries are not really to be the beneficiaries of this act because of the lack of correct data. All right. So next would be how to meet the deteriorating quality of education in the Philippines. So we have the educational policy CMO 30 series of 2013. That is the new general education curriculum. It was presented a while back. Okay, so we have PQF, Philippine Qualification Framework, and we have the AQRF, Reference Framework, ASEAN Qualifications Reference Framework. It has something to do with the outcome-based curriculum. Okay. And then, of course, we have the development of the seamless Philippine credit transfer across education levels. So I think this would be in line with the what we call the law when it comes to having the accessibility of education. We have the I forgot, the Republic Act 10931 and the Republic Act 10867. All right, so we have, so as it was presented a while back, we have now the new curriculum that was presented by correspondent Ederlin. So we have, especially when it comes to teacher education, okay, we have the new curriculum already. So another one would be to meet what we call the deteriorating quality education in the Philippines is the what we call the accreditation or the produce of Center of Development, Center of Excellence, CODs and COEs, as well as the autonomous and the regulated institutions in the Philippines. So for those who are, we need to refresh our mind when it comes to centers of development and centers of excellence. So when we say COE, it is to be a department in a higher education institution which continuously demonstrated excellent performance in the areas of instruction, research, publication, extension, and linkages, as well as the institutional qualifications. So if you are to excel, so take note that is a department or a program that is, or a department or a college in a certain HEI. So if, like for example, teacher of College of Teacher Education, we have PSU Bayambang Campus is to be Center of Development, COD, when it comes to offering teacher education. Fisheries is actually, I forgot, PSU, I forgot the branch. I forgot the branch. Not fit. But PSU have centers of development and centers of excellence. Or yeah, so that would be
PSU Binli Campus ate.
Yeah. All right. So thank you, Ms. Cha. All right, so that would be actually part of improving the quality of education of HEIs, specifically when it comes to specific programs. Okay, so when it comes to accreditation, also accreditation through what we call CMO accrediting, we have there is actually the legal basis of producing COE and CODs is to be Republic Act 7722 of the Higher Education Act. Okay, so another one would be the process of accreditation. So we have the voluntary accrediting agencies in the private sector, okay, as well as SUCs in the Philippines. We have PASCU, we have PACUCOA, okay? We have ACSU, or ACSUAAI. And yes, and that is PAAP also, and we have PAAP. So what is the process of accreditation? So from my readings, because I forgot already, I need to refresh my mind also when it comes to the process of accreditation. The institution would actually apply for accreditation. So they need to apply what to the agency. So like for example, for I think PSU is PACOCOA accredited. Okay, for my former university, University of Cordillera, since it's to be a private institution, it's to be accredited by PASCO. It's already level 3. Okay, and then the center, College of Teacher Education, where I belong, last 20 years ago, it is centers of development, center of development, and center of development also when it comes to IT. So that is actually part of what we call improving the quality of education of the higher educational institutions. Okay. So aside from producing COEs and CODs, we have also the Philippine higher education would be encouraged to have research output, research networks, centers, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that's why it is actually one of the main trusts of any higher education institution. So they have the triangulation function of the HEI. So research is one. Okay, so another one would be the internalization. Okay, internationalization. Sorry for that. So we have internationalization is part also of what we call the Sustainable Development Goal. Okay, so internalization. Okay, where is that? So internalization is the ability for teaching and learning to be increasingly involved in the international culture in order to enhance globalized learning. So globalization, globalization and internalization. So that's why we have exchange students, exchange teachers, exchange faculties or lecturers. And then we have academic programs with international standards. We have also, in line with HEI, so we have also, if you are aware of the rank of best universities all over the world, okay, that is the QS International Ranking. So that would evaluate and assess the quality of a higher education institution. In the Philippines, we have University of the Philippines ranks 300 plus. Mahidol University is top in Thailand, but it is also below. It's not part of the top 20 or top 50 or top 100. Okay, but Mahidol is higher than University of the Philippines. Okay, Mahidol University of Thailand. Okay, so behind these issues, behind the policy evaluation and policy analysis in the Philippines, we need to reflect on having an educational reform. Okay, we have the role of the government, okay, the political actors, we have the role of the public institutions, our stakeholders, the accessibility and quality of education, the internationalization, okay, to meet the sustainable development goals, especially within the ASEAN region. And then, of course, since it is to be a new curriculum that is to be implemented, we have the K-12 issues. We have already, I don't think it would be tackled by the last group, but they have already a research when it comes to the issues of the implementation of the K-12. So the research, the output of the research is actually to be part of policy analysis and evaluation. We have the strength and the weaknesses of the K-12 curriculum, and then after that, we need to reform the K-12. All right, so that would be my topic on policy analysis and evaluation. So before I end, I just want to leave you this quote: we can't value only what is easy to measure. Okay, measurable outcomes may be the least important results of learning. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your correspondent, Lolita L. Umina.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Lolita. That is very informative and help us to understand the policy of educations and evaluations, especially in analysis, has embarked on educations. So it also helped us to reforms that consider the crucial on its economic development. It's also bringing the school system into line with international standards because of the information that you given to us. It's also seeking to open up its higher education sector to more people, raise its academic profile, and brings lasting benefits to the country through a higher educations for local and international. So thank you so much for that,
All
Ma'am
right, so
Lolita.
I will just read Bot Center of Excellence in Fisheries and Education, PSU, Binmalay, and Bayambang Campus. Thank you,
Yes.
Doc, our professor. Thank you for
Yeah.
the
Thank you so much.
specific.
And then
Okay,
he also
Sir Ron.
said about us in accreditations for state universities and colleges. So we have our SOCs and AACUP. So those are, yeah.
Okay. So we're going back to Sir Woodward, right, Sir Ron?
Yep.
Okay.
So our one who set the agenda thank you so much to Mr. Ronnie Lambroso Morgan. And also thank you to the policy formulation and decision-making speaker, Ms. Ederlyn V. Aracena, and also to the policy implementation speaker, Ms. Charlotte Amelie Yuson, and lastly, Ma'am Lolita Elominga, who talked about the policy evaluation and policy process. So now we've come to the part wherein we are going to award the certificates for our correspondents or our resource speakers. Allow me to call on one of my close friends, and she finished her degree in education at the National Teachers College and finished her Master's of Education, major in Educational Management at the PSU Open University Systems. Please help me welcome Ms. Rosalie Manuel Bonifacio. Mom Rosalie?
Yes, good evening, everyone. A pleasant evening to everyone, especially to our Executive Director of PSU Open University System, Dr. Philip G. Quiroda. Sir, I would like to congratulate our distinguished speaker of their magnificent presentation and sharing their expertise and unique thoughts regarding policy process. With deep appreciation of your outstanding work and maximum effort, allow me to read the dissertation of this certificate. Republic of the Philippines, Pangasinan State University Open University System, Lingayen, Pangasinan, Certificate of Recognition is presented to, in grateful acknowledgement of her or his invaluable and commendable presentation as resource speaker during the EDM333 Webinar Series 3, sponsored by Doctor of Education, major in Educational Management, on the topic entitled The Policy Process. Held by May 7, 2022, via Zoom virtual conference, given this 7th day of May, 2022, signed by our very own Philip G. Quiroda, EDD, Executive Director, PSU Open University System. This certificate will be awarded to Mr. Ronnie Lambozo Morgan, Master of Special Education, Mrs. Charlotte Amelie Yuzon, Master of Education, Major in Educational Management, Mrs. Ederlyn Aracena, Master in Childhood Education, and Miss Lolita L. Umiga, Master in Social Science. Thank you, Sir Woody or Sir Woodward,
Okay, thank you very much, Ma'am Rosalie, and congratulations to our correspondents. You indeed, we really appreciate and recognize your efforts on giving us add-on information regarding, especially the parts of comparing the Philippines and Thailand curriculums. So now we will move on to one of the most important part of this webinar, wherein we will have interaction with our audience. So may I call on Mr. Ronnie Lambosa to moderate the question and answer portion.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Woodward. So we have a couple of questions here that we need to answer, thrown by our viewers or listeners or participants. So first one, it is a must that the pupils pass through the kindergarten to be admitted in elementary and primary school. So to the guest speaker, Ma'am Darlene.
Yes, okay. So as I mentioned during the section 1, the Kindergarten Act of 2012 is a mandatory that all children must enroll and complete the kindergarten level before entering grade 1. So as this bill emphasized the significance on the development and nurturing of holistic aspect of every child. So in the Philippines, we promote no child left behind. So therefore, we don't retain any student in any level in basic education. And as we all know, Filipino teachers are notable for being passionate in supporting the learners. We put our hearts to fulfill what we owe as a professional teachers with integrity. So teachers in the Philippines, as we all know, they do everything to help the students. So they do home visitations, they conduct remedial classes to those students who are lagging behind or needs extra support. Okay, I hope
Okay,
I
thank you
answered
so
the
much.
question.
Thank you so much, Ms. Erdeline. So, in addition to that, Mr. Smith asked if it is needs to pass. So, because I have my friend here and her daughter is in the kindergarten, there is an assessment need to pass by the kids before they're going to the primary, because they are like looking up if they are capable enough to do some works, the elementary works. So they need to pass some assessments that were going to, given by the teachers to those students. So it is required. And it's also the discretion of the parent if they want to retain their kids to the elementary. So there's also the decision of the parents as well as the teachers. So, but there's an assessment that they need to pass before they're going to the elementary level. Okay, we have the second question. So how can teacher fully participate in reviewing education policy? So that's the first one.
Okay, so let's answer the first question, Sir Ron.
Yeah.
In the Philippines, there is a teacher representative in the DepEd Central Office, and we also have a representative in the Congress in the Philippines. It's called Alliance of Concerned Teachers. So it is a political party that raises concerns to the Congress. And in the Department of Education, there is also called the Teacher Education Council, and it's also ratified in the Section 8 of RA 7784. So it says here, the secretary must provide technical and administrative assistance to the council in preparing policy recommendations, executing its policies and programs, and coordinating with various teachers' education advisory body. So it means teachers in the Philippines are also part of the policy formulation process.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ed. And the second one, she asks, a congested curriculum program and classroom are a nightmare for teachers. So how can educational policy be addressed this issue? So that is is that you, Ms. Ezerlin?
Okay, so I do agree that congestion in the curriculum as well as congestion in the classroom is really a nightmare for all the teachers around the world. So as what I have said during my session, policy formulation is the process of collecting and choosing the best strategies to solve the problem. So it is the best approach to do brainstorming among educational experts, researchers, high caliber policymakers, and collect all the best possible ways to solve any issues in the education sector. Okay, so based on the article that I had read uh, about the DepEd. So DepEd are still studying the changes on the K to 12 curriculum. So we are now on the 8 years of implementing the K to 12 program. But remember, this is not a short journey. It takes a lot of time to meet our learning goals. Okay, so the DepEd are still looking at the most essential learning competencies that they can remove to ease the curriculum. Okay, so there is no perfect policy as policy needs regular reviews and research studies in order for us to conclude the effectiveness of such policy.
Okay. So thank you so much, Miss Evelyn again. So we have the fourth question from Miss Michelle.
Sir Ron, sorry,
Oh,
may I
go ahead.
interrupt? Maybe we can ask if the participants, if they can personally ask the question, so
Yep.
they can also participate.
Okay. Yeah.
If
So
they
if
want
you,
to ask personally. Thank
yep.
you, Sir Ron.
Okay. Yeah. So, Ma'am Michelle. Ma'am Michelle Rosso, she has a questions. Ma'am, can you ask your questions?
Yes, sir. I'm I'm going back to it. Okay. What was my first question? Okay, I had three. So okay, I have a question
About the
to
K to
dear.
12.
Okay, do you think the K to 12 education policy benefited the Philippine economy? If your answer is yes, how? And if no, then why?
Okay, let me answer that one. Okay,
Evelyn.
so yeah, K to 12 reform definitely had a significant impact on our nation building, although we haven't built it yet because we are still on the process. Okay, so but in the long run, I think we can achieve our educational goal, which is to provide competitive or to produce competitive ideal graduates. As if we, so remember, our curriculum is compatible with the other nations. So if we are able to produce ideal graduates, it will open more doors for all Filipinos. So as we all know, Philippines is the number one human capital market. So we can see Filipinos in every part of the world as we are skilled, hardworking, and can adapt easily. So if more Filipinos will graduate from the higher education institution, it means everything will increase. We will increase the literacy rate, employment rate, and it would provide all Filipino a better standard of living as they can meet their needs and self-actualization. And the most important is it will decrease tremendously the poverty rate of our country. So more GDP, more money, more programs can be implemented in the Philippines that would benefit all the Filipinos.
Thank
So
you.
maybe
That was really, yes, that was excellently
Ma'am
answered. Yes,
we
thank you so much.
we have the last group. We will further have the information if the last set of our webinar because they would be specifically discussing on the K to 12 curriculum. So that would be our webinar number 5.
Sir Ron, can we ask yes, Sir Ron, can we ask our participants from the Cameron if they have any additional questions, please?
Yes, there's additional questions from Mr. Who's that? I'm going to read it here. Okay, so Sir Fred.
Yeah, after Sir Fred, I think we can consider some questions from the Cameron, right? Sir.
Yeah,
Sir,
yeah, we'll answer those questions. So, Sir Fred, go ahead. You first.
I think we can give the floor with our outside participants, the Cameroonian. Maybe
Cameron,
we
okay,
can,
so
yeah.
Thank you, Sir Fred.
Thank you, Sir Fred. What's the questions, Mr. from Cameron, participant from Cameron? Can you ask questions now? That's Mr. Fukam? Okay, Mr. Fukam, you can throw your question now.
Yeah, I'll take Mr. Fukam.
Yes, you can ask some question now, sir.
Yeah. We to find out what is that the tertiary educational system in the Philippines is more advanced of Thailand. This that apply the reaction.
Sorry, sir, we can't barely understand you. You're so glitchy. Can you please
Did you get me?
It's lagging.
I so developed.
Sir, you're logging. Cannot hear you very clear.
Yeah.
Sir.
So you
Can you repeat
maybe,
the
sir,
question,
you can type
please?
your questions because you are fluctuating. So you can type it here so that we can read for you. Mr. Fukam is still there?
Yes, Sir Smith, any question?
Oh.
Sir, question? Mr. Smith?
Okay, Mr.
You're
Smith,
recognized.
after Mr. Fukam is not here right now, he's out. So, okay, Mr. Smith, do you have any question?
I will ask my question in a short while, please. Thank you.
Okay, Sir Smith. Yes, sir. All questions are in the chat box.
Yeah, so we're still waiting for Mr. Smith
Or maybe
questions
Tyrone,
right
you could
now.
proceed first to Sir Fred's question first.
So maybe we're going to Sir Fred. Yeah, Sir Fred, go ahead first before we're going to answer Mr. Smith questions.
Okay, so let me go to my question. My first question is about the social divide in the Philippines. As we all know, in the middle, in the family class in the Philippines, when it comes to the social divide, how does the DepEd address this the social division between the upper class, the middle class, and the lower class in respect with the education for all policy?
Okay, actually, yeah. Actually, the Department of Education is working in partnership with the private institutions. So even the poor students can access education in the private institution. So the government is supporting the poor students by giving subsidies like in junior high school, which is the ESC. And then when the students finish junior high school, this government can still support that student by giving the senior high school voucher. Okay, so the government are trying their best to support those students to access also the private institution. They are from poor households.
Okay, so maybe I can add something to that. Not only the Department of Education, we have also offices or branches in our government that would help the less fortunate people or less fortunate families in the Philippines. We have the DSWD. that would have some programs and policies to help what we call the kids from the less fortunate families. And then, of course, it was presented a while back. We have the 4 Ps,
Yeah.
which is actually to be, if we'll try to really, if it's really to be implemented fully and well implemented, then definitely it would cater to the needs of the middle class and the less fortunate also. Maybe not middle class, because they said that 4 Ps is only for the poor. The middle class, they said that they are to be the left behind, actually, because they do not have the policies or programs coming from the government, because they are to be the working class, the middle class. But definitely when it comes to other branches or offices in the government, the Philippines, DSWD, we have other government organization that would help, or they would work hand in hand with the Department of Education.
Okay, thank you, Miss Darlene and Miss Lolita.
Okay. Can I ask my question now, please?
Okay, go, Mr. Smith. You can ask your question now.
Thank you. I would like to first of all appreciate the guest speakers for their powerful insight of the subject matter. So the first thing I would like to ask, first I will make a statement that educational policy may have a slight variation from country to country. For example, in Cameroon, which is having a bilingual educational system, which is English and French educational systems. Then still coming back now to the Philippine educational system, because in Cameroon you have the inclusive education, you have the policy, the collective promotion that is encouraged within levels. Now, coming now to the Philippines, to the question that I asked before, that is it mandatory for someone or for a people, is it mandatory for a people to be admitted in the elementary level with the people necessarily passing through kindergarten, or there are exceptions that students can also be admitted at the level of the kindergarten, sorry, at the level of the primary or elementary without necessarily passing through kindergarten? That question, I think, I did not get a satisfactory answer. So please, can you do a clarification for that one? That is one. Two, now, what are the mechanisms that are put in place by the Filipino government to see that the policy of inclusive education, especially with people of disability, that is special needs students, to see that they are able to learn comfortably together with the normal students? So these are my two questions with respect to this. Thank you.
Okay, so the first one, it's all about, it is a mandatory to pass. It's the primary, from kindergarten to primary. The second one, what are the mechanism, the inclusiveness policy of the DepEd programs for the people? So Sir Philip has a questions regarding on the inclusiveness program. So he said here, according to the Republic Act 11560, so one good program of the DepEd is the inclusive educations that caters the needs of indigenous people as well as the students with special needs. So that is one program. So because like in the Philippines, like what we said, we are catering everyone, education for all, so no left students behind. So even though you are disabled or you are having a hard time in learning, still you have the program that you need to gain, or you need to in which is the special ed. And also, because like in the Philippines, we have our ethnic groups, we have our indigenous people, they're having a hard time to access education. So one of the program also on the Philippine government is to educate those indigenous people in order for them to be, acquainted in terms of learning. So in addition, Ma'am Norita, do you have something to add for that?
Okay. So maybe when it comes to the first question, because of inclusivity already is answered by our professor, Doc Philip. Thank you very much, Doc Philip. We have the first question, is it really mandatory to for a student or for a pupil to pass the, to enroll or to finish first kindergarten before going to the elementary level? Yes, it is mandatory through what we call the Enhanced Basic Education Law, okay, that is to be implemented already. So because it's to be already a law under the Enhanced Basic Education Law, they need to complete what we call the levels. We have the 462 levels. That includes the mandatory kindergarten level that was discussed by our correspondent, Ms. Ederlyn, a while back. And she also mentioned about the law, the K-12 law, or the kindergarten law. So that's why, because it's already a law, it's mandatory already, Ajahn Smith. So definitely you cannot skip kindergarten under such law. Okay, so it's to be mandatory. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification. And I think I've gotten the clear explanation to my question. Thank you once again.
So I want also to share, because Sir Philip asked here that I need to share the inclusion education here in the United States. So here in the United States, we all have a diverse student. So different races, especially in our school district, we have a lot of races and diverse. We have our Native American, we have our African American, we have our Puerto Rican, Asian. So they can access the educations. So in terms of program, we have specialized program to those students. So for example, also some students having a hard time, like special eds, they are handicapped, they have specialized program designed for them so that they can access the educations, even the materials that they need, the school provided that. This included on the program. They are planned, they are evaluated, and they are funded by the government in terms of education. Okay, so next question. So next questions, I think Mom Mitch.
Okay, sir. My next question is, it's just out of curiosity that in spite of the numerous benefits received by our basic education teachers in the Philippines, as mentioned by one of our speakers, some DepEd teachers are still whining about their work. What could be the underlying causes and issues, and is it worth being a public teacher then? Thank you.
Okay, so I think Ma'am Cha, we're going to answer that questions.
Yes, thank you, Ma'am Mitch, for that. Like what they call it, a very a nice question. But I'm not like it's my dream to become a public school teacher, but because of some instances, I cannot. So with that, Ma'am Mitch, you said that is it worth to be a public school teacher, right? Can I answer that one? Yes, of course. Because
yes, ma'am.
Yeah, yes, of course, Mom. Because of the stable job, and then other incentives that you receive with regards to your work, your tenureship, and then some benefits that your family and you yourself would benefit. But there are some issues with regards to then, Ma'am Mitch, with regards to the what you call one, the development of the teachers, because it's very limited in the Philippines. As I've known, with regards to my father's experience. And other than that, there are also some instances that there are no, what do you call that one? There are a lot of benefits. But why are those teachers are suffering for those? They are suffering of like big loans, and there are no salaries left, right? So because of some like finances in the Philippines that are like how do you call that one? There are a lot of finances that are need to be studied with regards to the family finances and with your salary. And then there are a lot also with the issues of regards to the high salaries of the private university and with regards to the salaries of the public school teachers. But with regards to your question, that is it worth to be a public school teacher in the Philippines? Yes, of course. Yes, I agree to that. I say big yes to that. But there are a lot of policies to be published for the teachers to be like benefited more than that. I think that's my answer, Ma'am Mitch. I hope you get you get what you want. You get the correct answer.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, Ms.
How many
Charlotte.
questions? Yeah, how many
Next question.
left, Sir Ron?
Next question.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir, ma'am. Maybe we can give a chance to our Cameroonian, the one that already write or
Written the question.
written his question on the
Yeah.
chat box.
Yes.
Mr. Okam.
Yeah.
Yes, please. Address to that one, please.
Yeah, the variation of educational policies that affects the employment rate of each country. So with regards to the variation of educational policies that affects the employment rate, Mr. Fokan, I'm talking with regards to the policies of in each school or universities or private universities. As mentioned by Dr. Nawamin, with the higher education, it depends on the policies of the OHEC also. And then with regards to the basic education, I think Ma'am Eds can answer with the policies of the different rates of each teachers in Thailand. But with regards to our employment rate in Ratchapat University, we are under the government budget. That's the other explanation to that. There are also policies to that with the salaries of the teachers in Thailand. If you are under the government university in Ratchapat University, but with regards to the international schools, private schools, there are also some ratings that varies with the rate of their salaries. Can you add with that, Ms. Lolita, with the variation of educational policies that affects the employment rate?
Okay, so based from my understanding on the question of Sir Fokam of one of our participants from Cameroon, thank you, sir. So the variation of educational policies, of course, we have variation of educational policies. Different countries have their own set of educational policies, but we need to align our educational policies based on UNESCO, based on United Nations, based on UNESCO. So we need to align our educational policies with what UNESCO would be actually, it's not actually to be forcefully implementing, but we need to follow because of, we are actually to measure the effectivity, we are actually to rate we need to rate or the effectivity of different educational policies in different countries based from the criteria that is to be presented by UNESCO. Okay, so that's why we have, but definitely we have, in different countries, we have different needs. Like for example, Ajar Naomi a while back would actually mention about in Buriram Rajapat University, we have a specific university policy that would cater to the needs of the community. Okay, so they have that policy. So that's why we differ when it comes to educational policies. It affects the employment rate. It affects the employment rate. Yes, specifically if, like for example, what was given a while back by Ederlin, our correspondent Ederlin, that prior to the implementation of K-12 in the Philippines, when the Filipinos are to work abroad, especially in the first world countries, they need to take government laws and they need again to study in the country that they are to decide to work because of the they need to meet the educational qualification of the country. Okay, so they need to study again. So that's why the educational policies, the educational system would actually affect employment rate. And then, of course, when it comes to what Mom Charlotte or Miss Charlotte is talking about, of course, it would really affect your salary or your salary grade, especially if you are to work in a private university or in a government university. So we hope we answered your question, Sir Folkham. If you will have, if you are not satisfied, then you can just have a follow-up question. We have, there is a question from Miss Charlotte from another Cameroonian. What is the question?
Hello. Hello, Ma'am Lutz, Ma'am Lolita. May I just also add, when it comes to the educational policy, we are not just only following the UNESCO educational framework, but also we have also the ASEAN educational framework, which is under the CIMEO, if I'm not mistaken, if that's right, Dr. Philip, which is the PSU is one of the pioneer for the CIMEO. Right, right, sir?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so there's another questions here.
Yes.
Miss Josephine Zhu, I wish to find out the structure in terms of years spent in the basic level and secondary or higher education in the Philippines. Okay, so maybe I can answer that quickly. Through the enhanced education, basic education policy or law, we have 642 years, or the 6 is that would include 2 years for kindergarten, 4 for elementary, 4 years for junior high school, 2 years for senior high school, and then 4 to 5 years. It depends on what course or what degree you are to pursue in the Philippines. That would be the structure or the years spent when it comes to basic level until higher education. So we have 642, 6 for elementary, that includes kindergarten, 4 for junior high school, 2 for senior high school, and 4 to 5 years in the higher education. It depends on the degree. Thank you very much, Miss Josephine. Okay, we can proceed to
Another questions.
Maybe last 2 questions, Sir Ron?
Yeah, last 2 questions. So someone shares here, Miss Charlotte Versihi. So she said, inclusion education is still far reaching reality in my country. So this is because much still need to be done with our educational policy. So what can we advise with that, Ms. Charlotte, regarding on that inclusion educations? Actually, inclusion education is just a program by the World Bank or the UNESCO is the part of that. They have a funds for that, Mr. Charlotte. So the government would be able to, to study, to the feasibility study how to conduct and implement in terms of inclusions education in your country, because there's a lot of processes. They need to do like evaluations, analysis, and look at what are those things or problems that we're going to encounter in putting up some inclusion educations. So, but there is a fund for that because that is supported by the World Bank organizations.
And then, and in addition, it's political will. So it depends on
Yes.
the leadership.
Yeah.
Maybe some countries are already to be advanced when it comes to inclusivity of education, but other countries are not, because of sometimes it depends on the political will, political actors. That's why part
Exactly.
of the process, actually, part of the whole of the policy process, the political actors. So that's why. Thank you. Last.
Thank you. So another question, maybe last one. Last one. I think from Sir Fred.
I think, sir, most of the question that I throw in the chat box has already been answered. So I think we can go to the awarding of certificate to the participants.
Okay, if we don't have any questions, we can proceed to awarding of certificates to our participants.
Thank you very much, Sir Ron, to all our correspondents, and especially to our participants for the very interactive question and answer part of this webinar. So I hope you learned a lot. So I would like to add up that the Ma'am Lolita was saying a while ago was all about part of the structural policies, which the Group 5 will be discussing further in this webinar series. And some parts of the policies that were mentioned were part of the complementary policies, wherein there are whenever they're evaluated and some problems are encountered, they could come up to another policies and laws in the country. So anyway, we will proceed now to the awarding of certificates for our participants. Please read the citation, Ma'am Rosalie Manuel Bonifacio. Thank you. Ma'am Rosalie? Maybe you turn off your microphone, Ma'am Rosalie.
Okay, do you hear me now?
Yes, okay.
I'm sorry. I talk a lot already. Okay, on behalf of, thank you, Sir Woody, again. On behalf of PSU Doctor of Education students, we would like to extend our sincere thanks to all the participants for their active participation and commitment on the third webinar. Therefore, in grateful recognition for your involvement and sparing your valuable time, I will read the citation certificate. Okay, Republic of the Philippines, Pangasinan State University, Open University System, Lingayen, Pangasinan. Certificate of participant is present to for his on her active participation during EDM333 webinar series of Series 3, sponsored by Doctor of Education, major on Educational Management, on the topic entitled The Policy Process, held on May 7, 2022 via Zoom virtual conference given by 7th day of May 2022, signed by our truly yours, our own Dr. Philip G. Quiroda, EDD, Executive Director, PSU Open University System. We look forward to seeing you in one of our upcoming webinars. Congratulations for completing our third webinar. Thank you again and good evening.
So thank you very much, Ma'am Rosalie, and congratulations to all the participants. If you would like to claim your e-certificate, the evaluation form link was already sent by our subject coordinator, Mr. Frederick. Thank you very much, sir. So please do the evaluation first, and then you will get the e-certificate through your emails. So we would like to call And now for our closing remarks, one of the best teachers of Oman. He is an OFW working in Oman, our classmate in the Doctorate of Education, still in the same major. Please welcome for the closing remarks, Mr. Gamaliel Nakor.
Thank you, Sir Woodward, for that kind introduction. To our distinguished Professor, Dr. Philip G. Quiroda, my fellow classmates and colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to give these closing remarks today to this innovative and fruitful webinar on the topic, the policy process, a corroborative approach. Since I was given the duty of delivering these remarks, I thought it would be appropriate and useful to summarize some of the symposium's themes and concepts. I've summarized it as briefly as possible so that we won't use too much of your time. Okay, so first, I think the symposium has been effective in meeting its purpose, which is to broaden the understanding of the concept and meaning of policy in especially in general education. And two, they have provided the relevant and meaningful classroom or teaching experiences, and of course, with the comparisons of situations between countries. And second, important and intriguing arguments were presented in response to these topics. Our speakers stated that there are some constraints or limitations, not just in the implementation, but also in the creation of educational policies. Number two, our speakers also identified characteristics and features of policymaking processes in various domains and agendas. Now, throughout the more than 2 hours of the event, the formulation, the process, evaluation, and implementation that were discussed by our speakers emphasize the chances and benefits that the policy process has given to the Philippines educational system. So I won't keep you waiting much longer. So on behalf of the speakers, the organizers, the committees, and to Dr. Quiroda, we express our heartfelt gratitude to everyone who attended the symposium and contributed to this to its success. We hope that you have gained a lot during this webinar. Thank you for sharing your time and effort, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you very much, Sir Nakor. But before we end this webinar tonight, we would like to invite you to our next webinar, the 4th webinar series, this coming May 21st, 2022. The topic is about approaches to educational policy planning. Our resource speakers are namely Norma Liza Valenzuela, MAED, who will talk about manpower or HDR approach. We have Mr. Ranico Raquel, MAED. The topic is on social demand approach. And we also have Ma'am Catherine Martin, MAED. Topic is on the rate of return approach. And lastly, Mr. Ronald Nior, MAED. The topic is about social justice approach. The QR code is here. You can scan and register. It's all free. And we would like to thank each and everyone who came tonight. Thank you very much to our organizers, to our professor, to our executive director, and to the rest of our international participants for tonight. This has been your host together with Mr. Ron. My name is Udvar Villalino, saying good night and God bless each and everyone. Congratulations to the group.
Okay, Sir Wood, we're going to have the photo op. Right?
Ma'am Sha, excuse me, can I have some announcement, please?
Yes, sir.
To those our classmates, you can also evaluate or answer the evaluation form, and then you can also receive your e-certificate. Because most of our classmates wasn't able to answer also the evaluation for the past 2 webinars. So for the 3rd time, so we are asking our classmates, so please do answer also the evaluation, as we need this one for our documentation. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Sir Frederick.
Sir.
Photo op.
Yes. Oops. Yes, please open your camera, participants.
Sir Nior, Sir Smith.
Okay, Ate Shelley will do the honor. Ready? I will count, right, Ate Shai? Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Again. Another screen, please. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you
from
very
the
much,
speakers.
everyone. Good night and God
Okay, good
bless.
night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,